Chapter 61. They were afraid. The person who was suddenly silenced was not the only one shocked. As of then, the hundreds of spectators on the field and the people who dropped out from the first stage and returned with gloomy faces all widened their eyes. There was astonishment on their faces. Some of them already rose up from their sitting positions unconsciously, and there were some who moved forward instinctively towards the eagle statue located a little further away from them as if they wanted to take a closer look. The old woman from Dark Dragon tribe was staring at an eagle statue not far away with bright eyes shining with a strange light. She was staring at Mo Sus rank. The leaders of the other tribes were also staring intently at the statues with serious faces. The head of the guards of Dark Mountain tribe, Bei Ling's father, had kept his gaze trained on the rankings on the eagle statue since the beginning, and most of his attention was on Bei Ling's rank. At that moment, he ignored his son and stared at Mo Sus' name and the numbers showing the amount of steps he took behind him increasing at an exponential speed. At that moment, the entire field fell into dead silence. 36th. Mo Su, 301 steps. 34th. Mo Su, 310 steps. 31st. Mo Su, 322 steps. 28th. Mo Su, 335 steps. 26th. Mo Su, 344 steps. 23rd. Mo Su, 351 steps. 19th. Mo Su, 371 steps. It was not until Mo Su stopped and remained at the 19th place and at the 371st step after a long while that there were sounds of sharp breath intakes in the field. That scene made most of the people who saw it to be in disbelief. They may have witnessed a miracle yesterday night, but the change this time was too great compared to last night. If yesterday night was a miracle, then the unbelievable sight that happened right now could only be called a legend. He didn't even take the span of 60 breaths and managed to go from the 248th step to the 371st step, this is, he managed to take more than 120 steps, and all it took was less than 60 breaths. Wu Sen cannot do it. Chen Chong cannot do it. Even Yi Wang took more than 2 hours to take more than 100 steps. Just who was Mo Su? Amidst the sharp sounds of breaths being taken in, the field was enveloped in an uproar. The noise was much greater than it was during the previous night. This is only the afternoon. What will happen when it's evening, or night? With the strength that he showed us yesterday, how far will he go? Just what rank will he obtain in the end? Top 10. He'll definitely make it to the top 10. There were people who were jealous of Su Ming's achievements, but there were still plenty of them who were nobodies within the tribe. No matter whether it was Chen Chong, Wu Sen, or even the people ranked in the top 10, top 20, or even the top 30 or 40, these people were all prodigies way above them who deserved respect. There was also a longing to approach these people within them, yet at the same time, they also harbored feelings of disgruntlement and helplessness. Now, they saw a person who suddenly rose up the ranks with their own eyes. They saw the miracle of the person who was in the last place the previous day, who used a momentum and speed that was indescribable to speed up from the last place to get up to the 19th place. It was precisely because they saw it with their own eyes that they felt excited. It was as if Mo Su were themselves. Yet, people were complicated. This was not a simple change in attitude. Amidst their excitement, they all had complex feelings along with admiration. Those feelings tangled with each other and formed an emotion that they did not know how to describe. They wanted and hoped that Su Ming would continue to rise up and fulfill their longing to continue seeing the miracle, yet they were also deeply jealous that a nobody like him could suddenly climb up the ranks. They could only wish that he would be like them and be forever stuck at the bottom. Top 10. HMPH, I don't think so. He just got lucky and might have used some sort of low-handed trick to get so far. That's right, look at him. Every single time he walks a distance, he'll have to rest for a long time. I say that's where his secret lies. The discussions were filled with contradictions. The people were excited for one moment and jealous by the next. Yet at that time, there was an old man with a sharp mouth and cheeks of a monkey within the crowd. The old man's eyes moved around as if a thought just crossed his mind. He would occasionally get close to the people who were deep in discussion and pull one of them backwards. Under their dissatisfied looks, he would lower his head and murmur in their ears, then quickly open his shirt before closing it just as quickly, as if he was afraid someone would see it. The people who were dragged out by the old man all looked at him strangely with looks of disbelief. Yet after the old man told them something, most of them would believe him somewhat. There were even some who were brought further away by the old man to trade. The participants still within the mountain shared the complex feelings of those in the field. Most of them were looking at the plates in their hands and at the name that entered their sights since the previous night. They did not know what exactly they were feeling. There were feelings of admiration, jealousy, and perhaps even disbelief within them. Lei Chen looked away from the plate. There was a boyish smile on his lips, but there was still uncertainty in his eyes. As he continued walking, he kept wondering whether Mo Su was Su Ming. Ever since he saw Mo Su's name the previous night, Su Ming's face immediately appeared in his head. Now that he saw Mo Su's rank going higher and that he managed to get into the 19th place, besides feeling shocked, he also began to doubt himself. Ah, maybe it's not him. Bei Ling was drenched in sweat. He looked at the ranks on the plate and at the person called Mo Su rising up the ranks. He shook his head and lowered his head as he sighed. He's so good at being patient. From now onwards, his fame will definitely shake the heavens, but this has nothing to do with me. He's not from my tribe. But there's a Su in his name. I hate that word. Bei Ling lowered his head and continued slowly walking upwards. There was also Si Kong, who was situated at a stairway further away. He no longer cared about Mo Su, who suddenly rose up the ranks. In his sights, that person had already surpassed a lot of people. He was not someone Si Kong could compare to. Right now, he had his eyes on Bei Ling, who was placed right before him. I have to get into the top 50. Si Kong clenched his fist and walked forward with gritted teeth. It was the first time Bei Ling looked at the ranks on her plate for a long time. She was looking at Mo Su's name, and like Lei Chen, there was uncertainty in her heart. Is it him? Bei Ling smiled bitterly and shook her head. She knew that Su Ming was a berserker and had some power, but she did not believe that he was like Mo Su, who glowed like the sun. Compared to them, the one who was truly nervous was not Yi Wang, who was absolutely clueless to what was happening, nor was it Chen Chong and Bai Su, who were engaged with each other in a fierce competition. It was Wu Sen. Wu Sen was nervous. He looked at the ranks on his plate and at Mo Su's name, who managed to make it to the 19th place all of a sudden. His face was dark. He was no longer sure now who between Bai Su and Mo Su was the biggest suspect that stole his blood. Yet that wasn't the source of his anxiety. He was panicking over the possibility of being overtaken by not one, but two outsiders. Where could he possibly show his face after that? Damn it! Wu Sen let out a low vicious growl. His face was pale as he gritted his teeth, but he went forward in a frenzy. It was as if there was a roar in his head telling him to absolutely not be overtaken. All the people within the top 20 ranks were working hard. The moment Su Ming made it into their ranks, it immediately changed the situation within the top 20. It was akin to a stone being thrown into water. While it brought about ripples on the surface of the water, it also caused the fishes within the water to be shocked. Yet they were fortunate that the source of their shock, Mo Su, who was currently placed 19th, stopped when he arrived at the 271st step and did not move for a long period of time. It made them breathe out a sigh of relief and quickly continue upwards, using the chance to increase the distance between them. They were afraid. They were afraid of the strange acts made by the person called Mo Su. They were afraid of him, who would be unassuming when he did not move, yet when he did, he would bring about a shocking change. It was the first time that they were so aware of a person. Even when they were moving forward, they would occasionally look at whether that person was moving. They were also worried because they had the feeling that once this person started moving once again, he would move like thunder and quite possibly make it into the top 10. Su Ming sat on the 371st step. He had guessed that he might have caught the attention of quite a number of people, but he did not expect that the name he used, Mo Su, had already brought about a typhoon upon the first stage of the test. Besides Yi Wang, there was no one who did not know his name. There was even a huge decrease in the amount of eyes looking at the top 10 ranks that instead paid attention towards Su Ming's rank. They were waiting for the next time he would move forward explosively once again. Su Ming was calm. He closed his eyes. The number of blood veins that were circulating under his will was no longer 67, but 71. The 71 blood veins glowed in a brilliant red light as they surrounded his body. As they disappeared one by one, they would reappear again. As Su Ming was controlling them in a profound state, not only did he force out his latent potential, but he was also refining his own body so that he could obtain more power and become stronger. It made him look forward to how fast he could go once he could run at full speed. After all, Su Ming excelled at speed. Time passed by, and it was soon dusk. During the entire afternoon, there would occasionally be mist going towards the field and transporting those who yielded. The looks on their faces also gradually changed. The higher they were ranked, the less gloomy they would look as they came out of the mountain. There were even some who returned with excitement on their faces. As dusk arrived and the sky began to darken, most of the names ranked below 60 became gray on the 9 eagle statues. There were only 2 people left who persevered. 67th. Wula, 159 steps. 61st. Bai Ling, 178 steps. Chapter 62. Release the hair tie. Yet it was a pity, because Wula and Bai Ling's perseverance only lasted until it was after dusk. Once the moon started revealing itself in the sky, both names became gray. 2 wisps of black mist appeared and sped towards the field as the space in the distance twisted. Both wisps turned into 2 girls who were pale. Bai Ling was calm. She had already given it her all. Truth be told, the moment she did not find Su Ming taking part in the test, she lost all interest in competing. The moment she came back, Bai Ling lowered her head and walked towards her tribe under the scrutiny of hundreds of people. She did not say a word and sat behind the old woman as she looked at the ranks on the statue. She stared at Mo Su's name and bit her lip, her thoughts unknown. The old woman beside her lowered her head as if she was talking to Bai Ling, but Bai Ling seemed to be ignoring her and pretending not to hear her. She did not speak. Compared to Bai Ling's untroubled manner, Wula was incredibly discontent. She went to where Dark Mountain Tribe was located and the head of the guards welcomed her with a kind smile and comforting words. Wula, you did well. This is the first time you participated in the first stage of the test, and yet you managed to get into the top 70. Go back and train more. Next time, try making it into the top 50. Wula nodded her head slightly. She may not be satisfied with her results, but there was a pride within her that made her think that she achieved a pretty good result. It was just as the head of the guards said. If she could obtain this kind of result the first time she took the test, it was good enough. When Wula lifted her head and looked at the ranks displayed on the eagle statue, she saw Bai Ling ranked 49th, Lei Chen ranked 53rd, and she looked at Mo Su. Once she saw Mo Su's name, her eyes brightened up. Who could he be? Sometimes, time would pass by slowly, yet during the fierce match in the first stage of the test, everyone thought that time was passing by quickly. In the blink of an eye, the moon in the sky was no longer partly hidden in a crescent shape, but was turning brighter, revealing its whole form as it hung high in the sky. There was only a bit of time left before midnight. The pressure in the mountain gradually grew stronger. Lei Chen conceded. His final rank was 52. As he was transported back to the field by the mist, his face was not gloomy. There was still a boyish smile on his face. Once he came back, there were a few people who came up to him to greet him. It was clear that ever since the representatives from Dark Mountain Tribe came to Windstream Tribe, Lei Chen made quite a number of friends. Once he returned to where Dark Mountain Tribe was located, Bai Ling and Si Kong also gave up. As they returned with the black mist, Bai Ling came back with his usual aloof demeanor. He was still placed 49th. He had managed to get his wish and made it into the top 50 ranks. It was different this time compared to the previous test. A few years ago, he had only made it with Wu Sen's help. This time, he made it on his own. Bai Ling believed that if he had not given Wu Sen the large amount of blood from the center of his brows a few days prior to the test, then perhaps his rank would be even higher. He walked towards where Dark Mountain Tribe was located pridefully. Wula, you were pretty good. You might not have been able to make it into the top 50, but this rank is already very good. However, don't be arrogant. There are still 2 stages left. Bai Ling looked at Wula and spoke slowly. Wula quickly stood up and nodded her head lightly. There was respect in her eyes as she looked at Bai Ling. Now that she participated in the test, she knew just how hard it was to make it into the top 50. As for you, Lei Chen, you should have been able to make it into the top 50 ranks, but now you're only ranked at 52nd place. It's fine, there are still 2 stages left. You have to work harder. There are only 3 of us representing Dark Mountain Tribe. We have to give it our all. Bei Ling looked at Lei Chen and spoke calmly. Lei Chen lowered his head and did not speak. When Si Kong returned, he was dejected. He was still ranked 50th. He walked back towards his tribe disheartened and looked at Bei Ling, who was quietly sitting by the side. He was just about to speak to her when Bei Ling looked at him coldly. He immediately swallowed his words. As time passed by, those within the top 50 gradually gave up. As the names began to turn gray and more people returned to the field, the place started becoming lively. Those who were ranked in the top 50 came back with pleased faces. There were also quite a number of people who would go up to them to celebrate, and they laughed together joyfully. There were people who gave up, but there were also people who persevered. At that moment, Chen Chong gritted his teeth and persevered in a bout of madness. His entire body was drenched in sweat, and the flesh on his face was trembling as he continued climbing up the mountain. He was already panting harshly. There were numerous stars swirling before his eyes, making him so tired he could barely go on. Yet at the same time, he continued mumbling under his breath. "You bastard, damn it, I'm so tired." 537, "You damn Bai Su." 538, "You damn Bai Su." 539, "You damn Bai Su, you're on, I'll definitely fight against you until I die." Chen Chong wiped his sweat. There was madness in his eyes as his mutterings became louder. "Are you a madman? Why the hell do you insist on competing with me? You bastard, Bai Su, if I die of fatigue, I'll come back and haunt you." 538, "Huh. That's not right, it's 539. Chen Chong's face was bitter, and in his madness, he panted like thunder roaring. He even went down on all fours and took onto the increasing pressure as he continued climbing forwards. His heart was pounding against his chest as if it was about to explode. The amount of sweat that fell from him could even be seen staining the stairs behind him. "You're going to make me die from exhaustion. You bastard, you're thinking about making me die from exhaustion. With this amount of sweat, I've definitely become thinner. I'm definitely thinner." Chen Chong kept on panting as he continued climbing upwards. Suddenly, his ears moved. Once he listened carefully, he immediately laughed loudly. "I'll make you die from exhaustion. How dare you compete with me? I'll make you die by exhaustion, you damn Bai Su." His exceptional hearing allowed him to hear the sounds of panting that was not at all weaker than his coming from a stairway further away from him. Bai Su was also in a pathetic state similar to Chen Chong. His sweat kept dripping down, and his eyes were so bright it was as if there was a fire burning within them. He had been competing against Chen Chong for a long time, and he was just climbing upwards madly while gritting his teeth. He was already so tired he could feel a stab of pain in his chest when he panted, but he refused to give up. "Chen Chong, I'll definitely surpass you. I am the strongest among our peers besides Yi Wang." Yet, the higher they were, especially in the 500s, the amount of pressure, notably the exponential increase of pressure during the night, became incredibly terrifying. It was still slightly bearable during the day for Chen Chong and Bai Su, but now that it was almost midnight, it could be said that even lifting their feet alone was a difficult task. Besides these two, the rest of those who persevered were the same. It was especially so for Wu Sen. He continued walking upwards with gritted teeth. He did not want to be overtaken. Even if he could not make it into the top 10, at the very least, he had to maintain his current rank. Midnight was about to arrive, and the pressure in the mountain was about to rise to its peak. Some of the people who were still within the mountain had begun to stop. After all, according to the tradition of the first stage of the test, the final battle was tomorrow morning. The moment midnight arrived, Chen Chong's entire body trembled. He could clearly feel the pressure of the mountain reaching to a point where he was terrified by it. 547, 5, "Damn it, I quit. Bai Su, if you want to be number 2, I'll give it to you. If I continue, I'll definitely die from exhaustion here. All my body mass is gone." Chen Chong fell down exhausted by the side and roared towards his surroundings. "I'll take number 3, it's fine, as long as I don't fall out of the top 3, I won't embarrass myself." Wu Sen is still at the back anyway. Bai Su, continue if you can. Take a few more steps, better yet, just drop dead. Damn it, if only I had Mo Su's ability and had a breakthrough, then I'd definitely, Ah. Chen Chong panted harshly and fanned himself with his hand as he continued mumbling under his breath. Suddenly, his body trembled and his ears perked up. His face was gradually replaced by shock. Bai Su was looking at the ranks on the plate. Once he saw that the figures showing the number of steps Chen Chong took became still, he laughed towards the sky. There was a ruthless expression on his face. I am the strongest besides Yi Wang. He gritted his teeth and climbed a few more steps, panting harshly. When he arrived at the 553rd step, he stopped. Yet, the moment he looked at the plate once more, the pleased expression on his face immediately froze. He saw Mo Su, who fell to the 21st place, move once again. Wu Sen and the others within the top 20 also noticed the change. Besides Yi Wang, everyone saw Mo Su moving in succession. At the same time, the field outside was also enveloped in such an uproar that it seemed like it was a typhoon that was about to turn the world upside down. All the people on the field, including the old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe, the leaders of the other tribes, and even the tribe leader from Black Mountain Tribe, who had refused to look at the ranks in the beginning, all turned towards the eagle statues immediately. Numerous pairs of eyes, Lei Chen, Wu Le, Bai Ling, Si Kong, Bei Ling, and the rest of those ranked after 20, who had given up, looked towards the same name on the 9 eagle statues with stilled breath. Mo Sang's eyes were bright as he stared at the ranks on the eagle statue. The brightness in his eyes was so strong that Jing Nan, who was beside him, no longer looked calm. His pupils shrank in anxiety as he looked over. Su Ming moved. Midnight belonged to him. Su Ming stood up, bathed by the moonlight. His blood veins had already been reduced until there were only 15 left on his body under fine control. All of them sank back into his body. As he lifted his head and looked at the moon in the sky, the shadow of the red moon gradually appeared in Su Ming's eyes. His hair was tied up by a string made of grass and was moving in the air despite the absence of wind. Su Ming took in a deep breath and untied his hair with his right hand, causing his hair to tumble down. He lifted his right foot abruptly and landed on the 372th step. The moment he landed on the stairs, all the blood veins in Su Ming's body manifested themselves with an explosive force. It was also the first time he would show his current fastest speed in this place. A blood-red light spread towards his surroundings, and Su Ming ran forwards like a shadow of blood. 327 steps, 393 steps, 424 steps, 448 steps, 471 steps. His speed was like a typhoon sweeping by the night. It made all the people who were watching in the mountain and in the field fall into silence. Chapter 63, A Great Threat. It was impossible for the crowd not to fall into silence because it had all just begun. On the 9 eagle statues and on the plates showing the rankings to the people left on the mountain, which numbered less than 20, the rank that belonged to Su Ming was rising madly with a terrifying speed. 20th, 19th, 17th, 15th, 14th, 12th, 10th. The moment he made it into the 10th place, the ranks changed once again and he was placed 9th. Wu Sen was struck dumb. He stood at the 457th step and stared at the ranks on his plate with a stunned expression. He could not believe his own eyes. He may have predicted that Mo Su would bring about another shocking change the moment he started moving once again, but he did not expect the level of shock that Mo Su brought would be so horrifying. It was almost within an instant, but his rank fell from the 12th place to the 13th. There was not even time for him to counterattack. He was not given any chance to fight back or struggle. He was not the only one who was stunned. Besides him, the others from the 11th place right up to the 20th place experienced a change in their ranks within an instant. That sort of change brought about a sense of powerlessness within them. They did not even have the time to generate the desire to fight back. What was left was only the sense of awe and shock. Wu Sen let out a low growl and the veins on his face popped up. He gritted his teeth and rushed forward madly. He could not accept it. As he moved, the others who were surpassed by Su Ming in rank also rose up from their resting position and joined the chase with gritted teeth. Those who could enter into the top 20 were not any common practitioners. Their pride did not allow them to give up so easily. At that moment, they did not care about the increased pressure during midnight. All of them moved. Even Chen Chong, who was resting on the 547th step, trembled in shock. He stared at the plate in his hands with a dumbfounded expression and took in a sharp breath. He heard a muffled boom just now that signaled the increase of blood veins. It was the sound that he had longed for and envied just moments ago. Bai Su, who was at the 553rd step, could hear the sound even clearer. There was only a layer of thick mist separating him from Su Ming. He could hear the sound of the muffled boom clearly and distinctly feel the person called Mo Su climbing up the stairs on the stairway by his side at a terrifyingly maddening speed. It was not just them. The ones who were the most anxious at that moment were the 5 people ranked from 4th to the 8th place. These 5 people were all from Windstream tribe. They might not be as famous as Chen Chong and Wu Sen, but they were definitely extraordinary. Yet at that moment, their anxiety caused their hearts to pound against their chests, and they all stood up to continue climbing. Nonetheless, it was night. It was midnight, when the pressure of Windstream Mountain was at its strongest. The resistance they felt as they climbed was incredibly strong. That sort of pressure that seemed like the might of heavens pressing onto them could make a normal person's spirit break. It was especially so when all of them stood up, yet before they even took a few steps forward, they checked the ranks on their plates once again, and the shock they felt turned into dumbfounded astonishment. All of them began to stop in succession. Su Ming's hair floated behind his back. Without the string made of grass tying his hair, they moved in the air even in the absence of wind. His eyes were blood red, and there was a moon burning within his eyes. He did not stop. Once he arrived at the 471st step, his entire body started roaring non-stop as the blood veins manifested increased one by one on his body. He did not even bother to count how many blood veins had appeared, but simply continued pressing onwards. The pressure from the mountain fell onto his body like one from numerous mountains, almost making Su Ming cave under it. He circulated his qi around his body and surrounded it with moonlight, then continued firmly at a quick speed under the pressure. 472, 483, 494, 506, 523, 537, 546. Su Ming only stopped when he was standing on the 546th step. He was drenched in sweat and was breathing heavily, but his eyes were filled with determination. The booming sounds in his body continued. Once he stopped, all 87 blood veins manifested on his body. They were scattered in a disorderly manner on his body, which enveloped Su Ming with a strong presence. 4th. Mo Su, 546 steps. There were only 3 people before him. Behind him were all the rest of the people left taking part in the first stage of the test. He may not be at the top of the mountain looking down on the others, nor could he climb right to the top in one go, but at that moment, Su Ming was already standing among the crowd of the most powerful people of his generation. Chen Chong shuddered. He may not be looking at Su Ming, but he could feel a strong presence rushing towards him from the plate in his hands. He could even hear the booming sounds that made him dumbfounded in his ears. He could not see Su Ming, but the latter had a force that made him even more shocking compared to Bai Su. Perhaps it was precisely because he could not see him that the mysterious feeling around Su Ming caused Chen Chong to feel a rare sense of fear and caution. Chen Chong may seem like an easygoing person, but in reality, there was still a sense of pride within his heart. He looked onto Bai Su with disdain. He only gave up because he was too tired and decided to let it be. He did not want to compete too much for that rank. Why should he make himself so tired? More importantly, Bai Su was not even considered an opponent in his eyes. So what if he surpassed him? Without that sort of presence that would make people shiver, it was all empty talk. To Chen Chong, only one person had that sort of presence, and that person was Yi Wang. Yet now, he was shocked as he found that same presence that was supposed to be unique to Yi Wang on Mo Su's name. Chen Chong became serious. He no longer continued to mumble, but instead gradually revealed the presence of a powerful berserker on his person. He stood up and looked towards the deeper parts of the mist. It was faint, but he saw the silhouette of a person standing on the 546th step on a stairway somewhere with his head tilted towards the sky. There was an oppressive might on that person that caused Chen Chong to pay extreme attention towards him. Compared to Chen Chong, it was obvious that Bai Su could not compare to him in that field. There was a vicious look on his face at that moment, which caused him to look ruthless. He was glaring at the mist. He could even hear the faint sounds of the person breathing behind the mist. No matter who you are, it's impossible for you to overtake me. Bai Su growled lowly towards the mist. His words spread into the mist and scattered gradually into nothingness. At that moment, the tribe member of Wind Stream tribe placed last among those still left within the mountain fell into a brief silence and chose to give up. He chose to leave. He knew that there was no need to wait for daylight. The final battle for the first stage of the test had begun. Yet he did not have the ability to participate in this battle. The mountain only belonged to a limited amount of people. He did not want to become a mere useless decoration for them. That was why he would rather leave than stay. Understanding their own limits and knowing when to step down was something that was not seen on most people. Still, most of the prodigies within the top 20 still understood that concept. Most of those who were powerful would usually respect each other, even if they were not within the same tribe. As the person left, besides Wu Sen and another 2 people, those ranked after the 4th place gave up and left the mountain for the 4 people who stood at the top. They left the place for them so that they could have the battleground for themselves. Wu Sen struggled for a moment, then let out a long sigh. He chose to surrender and left as well. The other 2 seemed to not want to surrender, but when they saw the rest leaving, after a slight hesitation, they chose to yield as well. As the wisps of black smoke appeared in succession in the quiet field in the middle of the night, no one spared a glance for them. At that moment, all the people on the field were looking at the ranks on the eagle's statues with rapid breathing. The old woman from Dark Dragon tribe had already stood up with a grave face. The strong man beside her did the same thing. They were not the only ones who did so. All the other members of the other tribes did the same thing. No one continued sitting down. Even the tribe leader of Black Mountain tribe was glaring at the ranks on the eagle statue with a dark face. Bei Ling, Si Kong, Bai Ling, Lei Chen, Wu Le, and the rest of them were all looking at the ranks silently. Even the prodigies who returned to the field did not mind that they were not given attention when they returned. Instead, they all turned to look at the statue and at the only 4 names that were still lit on the ranks when all the other names had turned gray. Mo Sang was looking at the ranks with a serious expression on his face. Jing Nan was also looking at the ranks, though his face did not betray his thoughts. Su Ming stood at the 546th step and took a deep breath. The pressure at that place was incredibly strong. It was difficult for him to move forward with his previous speed. He lifted his leg and stood on the 547th step, then continued moving forward 1 step at a time. His pace was not quick, but it was steady. He could hear faint sounds of roaring, as if someone was saying something, but he did not pay any attention to it. He simply continued onward and moved up 1 step at a time. Chen Chong's face was serious. He no longer mumbled under his breath and no longer looked at the ranks on the plate. Instead, he tore away the shirt on his person with a grave face and exposed his slightly plump upper body as he too walked forward 1 step at a time. As for Bai Su, his face was twisted viciously. He gritted his teeth, took on the incredible pressure on his body, bore through the pain that was brought by the oppressive might, and continued onward. Every single time he took a step, he would look at the rank on the plate. First, Yi Wang, 791 steps. Second, Bai Su, 554 steps. Third, Chen Chong, 548 steps. Fourth, Mo Su, 547 steps. Only Bai Su was looking at the ranks among the 4 of them. The other 3 did not. For Yi Wang, it was because he did not care about any changes. Right from the start, he believed that the only opponent for him was himself. For Chen Chong, it was because of his pride. The faint presence of Su Ming's aura had caught his attention and made him pay great importance to it. That was why he decided not to look at the ranks to avoid affecting his state of mind. Su Ming also did not look at the ranks. He was only looking at the steps on the stairway and walked forward 1 step at a time. With each step he took, Su Ming's entire body would tremble and a huge amount of sweat would appear as he felt the exponential pressure on his body. Yet, His unwavering determination and the indescribable resolution within him allowed him to persevere under the pressure like a small tree in a storm. Among all those living on the land, who will be able to see the end of the horizon? Su Ming looked at the sky and mumbled as he continued walking. Chapter 64. The Test of the Heart. The moon hung high in the sky. That day, the moon was slightly different from the other nights. There were no clouds in the sky, causing the moon to look incredibly bright. Moonlight fell on the land as if lowering a soft curtain between heaven and earth. It may seem beautiful from a distance, but within the gigantic mountain, where the peak reached the sky and the summit was invisible to the eye, the moon turned into something terrifying. Under the moonlight, the pressure in the mountain was continuously erupting forth at a terrifying speed that turned into an invisible typhoon and distorted the entire peak of the mountain. It caused all those within to see the chaotic state around them without even needing to lift their heads. It was midnight. It was the time when the moonlight was the strongest. It was also the time of day when the pressure on the mountain reached its peak. If there was no mist on the mountain, and if anyone lifted their heads and looked from the distance towards the mountain, then they could see Su Ming and the other two standing at the top of the sky. If the watcher lifted its hands, they could touch it. Those who continued upwards past 500 would seem to have entered the sky, and that was so for Yi Wang. He did not know what was happening outside, neither did he know that there were 3 other people fighting hard behind him. He only cared about walking slowly on his path one step at a time, panting harshly. Today, I'll make it to 803. Yi Wang gritted his teeth and walked forward with eyes filled with a burning pride that seemed as if it could scorch all those who looked into his eyes. No one could take more than a dozen steps on the stairs if they had no perseverance while under that pressure. Bai Su was persistent, but within that persistence was a lack of confidence, or else he would not need to look at the ranks on the plate in his hands with each step he took. 556, 557, damn it, Shen Chong surpassed me, he's at 558. Bai Su was vexed. He gritted his teeth and took another step, but the moment he did so, his entire body trembled. He heard a faint roar coming from the highest part of the mountain. That roar was definitely not of man but belonging to a beast. As the roar echoed through the air, Bai Su trembled. There was a sharp pain in his chest, and he coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood. His body swayed, and he nearly fell to the side unconscious. His face was pale. During that instant, he felt as if the entire mountain turned into a mysterious beast whose form could not be seen. Chen Chong also felt it. He was standing on the 558th step and was just about to take another step forward when his entire body shook viciously. He lifted his head abruptly. His eyes were bloodshot, and blood trickled down from the corners of his mouth. Su Ming was drenched in sweat, but the determination within his eyes did not dim. Instead, it became even stronger. He pressed onward step by step, 548, 549, until he stood at the 557th step. He too heard the faint roar. That roar seemed to be filled with rage toward the heavens as it rushed towards him. The moment it came to Su Ming, he froze. There was a sharp pain in his chest, and he coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood. There was a pressuring might within the roar itself, as if it wanted to make all the people who heard it submit to the sound. Yet at the moment his blood stained the ground before him red, the blood-red moon in Su Ming's eyes suddenly burned stronger with a brilliant light. He would not yield. Su Ming lifted his head instinctively, looked towards the top of the mountain, and let out a loud roar. The sound he made was like thunder roaring, and it echoed through his surroundings. The fire burning within his eyes seemed to be ready to spill out as he lifted his right leg and stomped fiercely onto the 558th step. The moment his feet landed, Su Ming trembled and veins popped on his skin as all his manifested blood veins spread all over his body. The red and blue colors crisscrossing all over his body showed that Su Ming was experiencing an indescribable pain, but he did not give up. He would make it to the 563rd step. He would reach the fine control step over there. He did not want to give up this chance. Most of all, he did not want to make the elder disappointed. If he was to make a move, then he would definitely not make himself regret his decisions, now and forever. What he wanted to do was to have no regrets. He would give it his all and fight so that he would never regret. 559, 560, 561. Su Ming took another 3 steps. With each step he took, he could feel his body trembling harshly and letting out sounds that screamed that he could no longer continue. It was as if his flesh and bone were about to be crushed. That sort of pain was nearly unbearable for him, who was merely a teenager of 16 years of age. 2 more, 2 more. Su Ming roared within his heart. He kept telling himself that he had to make it to the 563rd step. Su Ming growled again. He lifted his feet and took another step. The moment he placed his foot on the ground, he felt as if the earth and mountain moved and shook. However, he knew clearly that the earth did not move, neither did the mountain shake. It was he himself that moved. The feeling as if the earth and mountain moved made Su Ming's face void of color instantly. He lifted his head and looked at the sky. It seemed to gradually move away from him, as if the sky itself was moving before his eyes. At that moment, time seemed to have slowed down. Su Ming could tell that his body was falling down slowly. The earth did not move. The mountain did not shake. It was his body that had reached its limit and was falling backwards slowly. The 562nd step is a test. A bitter smile appeared on Su Ming's lips. The earth does not move. The mountain does not shake. Even if you move, none of this changes. Elder, why is it that when I run, it seems like the trees around me are moving? I don't understand. I don't know whether it's my body that's running, or if it's the trees that are moving backwards. Elder, just what is happening? As he was feeling bitter about the situation, a memory of his younger self asking the elder that question surfaced in his head. Your eyes will lie to you. Su, once you grow up, you'll understand. What you see might not be real. Perhaps your eyes are deceiving you. Look at that tree, is it really moving? Is your body moving or the tree moving? Or is it something else? Su Ming remembered that he was still slightly confused and could not truly understand the elder's words when he heard the answer. Yet now, as he recalled it, he was stunned. The one that changed is not the earth, nor the mountain. Because the body moved, that's why everything seemed to have moved, but in truth, the earth did not move, neither did the mountain move, the one that moved. Su Ming widened his eyes. He felt that he had grasped onto a line of thought. The one that moved is my mind. When I ran, my body moved, but the trees didn't move. Yet what my eyes saw were the trees moving. That's because my mind was tricked by my eyes, and it's my mind that moved. Even if my body moved, but if my mind didn't move, then the land, the mountains, the trees, everything wouldn't move. Even my body might be deceived. My eyes, my body, everything can trick my mind and make it seem like I'm moving. Su Ming shivered. Once he understood the concept, there was a roar in his head. The strength of the roar made him feel faint. When the dizziness gradually disappeared, Su Ming stood there, stunned. He lowered his head and looked at the steps underneath his feet, then looked at his surroundings. He was still standing on the steps. His right foot was on the 562nd step, and his left foot on the 561st step. In reality, his body never experienced any change. Su Ming silently lifted his left foot and went to the 562nd step. Once he did so, he took a deep breath and understanding appeared in his eyes. I get it, if my mind doesn't move, then nothing will move. This is the meaning of fine control, Su Ming mumbled as he walked towards the 563rd step. He stood there, and a faint smile appeared on his pale face. He slowly sat down in a meditative position and began the first true fine control after he understood the meaning behind it. It was different from the previous 4 times. Before, he had only performed it with ignorance. All his strength was placed in controlling the speed of his qi. This was just relying on external strength. Now that he finally understood, he knew that true fine control did not rely on external strength to control the speed of qi circulation, but on the mind. Qi will only move when the mind moves. If the mind does not move, then qi will also remain still. At the same time Su Ming sat down, Bai Su let out a frustrated roar. His right leg trembled and hung above the 562nd step. Yet no matter what, he could not place it down. He had a strong feeling that if he placed his foot down on the step, his body would not be able to bear it. The feeling was extremely powerful. It was so real that he had no choice but to believe in it. Slowly, he chose to stop with a pained expression. He did not dare to take the risk. Chen Chong had a grave expression. It was an expression that was rare on him. He stood at the 561st step and looked at the 562nd step. He was silent for a long time. Some time ago, he had heard of the story regarding this step. After a moment, Chen Chong gritted his teeth and walked towards it. Yet the moment his feet landed on the step, his entire body seemed to freeze and he stood there, dumbstruck. His eyes were empty and blank. Time passed by, and after 7 breaths, Chen Chong coughed out a huge mouthful of blood and fell between the 561st and 562nd step. In the end, he did not manage to pass the test of the heart that existed on that step. Yet compared to Bai Su, Chen Chong had the heart and mind that could turn him into a powerful berserker. The field was in dead silence. There were no discussions, no commotion. All of the people were breathing rapidly as they looked at the ranks on the eagle statues. The shock in their hearts replaced all thoughts in their minds. First, Yi Wang, 803 steps. Second, Mo Su, 563 steps. Those 2 lines garnered all their attention. Mo Su was just a normal name that no one had heard before the test. Yet now, his name was famous. Time passed by gradually. That night was bound to be extraordinary. It was bound to be even more stunning than the previous night. That night was bound to belong to the 2 people in the mountain for their final battle. There was no one who was growing impatient in the field. In the midst of their silence, they waited. They waited for the moment that the both of them would move. When midnight passed by and there was only a small amount of time left before dawn, the number of steps behind Mo Su's name on the 9 eagle statues changed. The weather did not change, neither did the wind blow once he moved. Yet the moment he did so, his movements turned into a storm that raged within the hearts of all those who were watching. Chapter 65. Yi Wang changed. Su Ming opened his eyes. There were only 3 blood veins left on his body. He lowered his head and looked at the 3 blood veins on his chest before standing up. He took a deep breath but did not rush forward. He turned his head and looked at the thick mist behind him. He could not see the ground below, but he could feel that he was standing at a very high place. I might need to go to the 781st step to make the final 3 blood veins disappear. Su Ming looked at the summit, and his eyes gradually lit up. Also, I want to see just how far can I go. Su Ming raised his foot and moved towards the 564th step. Once he stood there, he walked further upwards 1 step at a time without hesitation. He moved forwards 1 step at a time. Su Ming no longer moved along the stairs with that maddening speed from before, where he managed to climb up around 100 steps within the span of a few breaths. Yet there was no hint of stopping within him as he walked forward steadily at a moderate pace. He was calm, and he exuded an air of calmness that seemed like he was the water within an ancient well that would not ripple even when stones were thrown into it. Gradually and slowly, he moved towards the 573th step, 578th, 582th, and he continued onward. As he pressed onward, all his blood veins surfaced on his skin. A great presence of qi exploded from his body. At the same time, as he continued steadily onward, another blood vein manifested. This path was the path of a strong berserker that belonged to Su Ming. It was an incredibly important stage of metamorphosis in his life. It was a change in his training and understanding of his soul. Every step Su Ming took was turned into figures shown on the number of steps he took on the eagle statues in the field. Every single time the numbers jumped, the people who were watching would feel as if their hearts jumped along with it. 597, 598, 599, 600. He's at the 600th step. That was Yi Wang's limit yesterday. He's still going on. 601, 602, could Yi Wang not have noticed him? He may be further away, but if this continues, then before long, Mo Su will catch up to him. Due to Mo Su's movements, the quiet field was gradually filled with sounds of discussion. Yet compared to the commotion on the previous night, most of the discussions were held in low voices and whispers. Compared to the crowd that had been watching the first stage since the beginning, there were still some people in the field made up of those who were ranked within the top 50. There were also some people who were ranked within the top 10, and they had formed their own cliques. Yi Wang must be feeling prideful. He always had a habit to not look at the ranking. Well, Yi Wang always believed that the only one who could compete against him was himself. No one else had the ability to do so. Ha. I wonder whether Mo Su will have the ability to become his opponent this time. He's already at the 645th step. That Mo Su is really good, though. I can't compare to his potential. Honestly, I'd really want Yi Wang to look at the plate. I'd like to see his reaction once he knows about Mo Su following close behind his back. Would he turn his nose against him? Or will he become slightly excited? The two different crowds in the field talked about different things. Compared to them, there was a crowd in the field that was formed of people of even higher statuses. They were all the leaders of different tribes. Their status and power determined their social standing. The old woman from Dark Dragon tribe looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue. Her eyes were gradually clouded with seriousness and mindfulness. She did not know who that person was, but she admired him nonetheless. From what she could presume, no matter which tribe Mo Su belonged to, it could not be from Wind Stream. If that was the case, then it would be interesting once that person appeared in the field. It's a pity he's not from Dark Dragon tribe, or else I'd do everything I can to aid him in his training. The old woman lamented, looking at Bai Ling and Si Kong beside her. Si Kong isn't the type who can take on large responsibilities. Dark Dragon tribe is falling. As for Bai Ling, she only has a passing fancy towards that Su Ming. She still can't differentiate between gratitude and affection. But as long as she doesn't mingle around that rascal, then time will naturally make her forget about him. What right does that Su Ming have to approach my granddaughter? Unless, of course, he is that mysterious Mo Su. The old woman gave a self-depreciating laugh, and a hint of mockery appeared in her eyes. Located further away was the tribe leader from Black Mountain tribe. His face was dark as he stared at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue. His gaze was cold, yet at the same time, there was mindfulness and shock within his eyes. Bai Su was taught by the elder since he was young and has surpassed those among his generation by leaps and bounds. If it wasn't because the elder had reached a breakthrough and could now stand at the same position as Wind Stream's Jing Nan, then he wouldn't have let Bai Su appear. But where did that Mo Su come from? Which tribe does he belong to? I must bring him to the tribe, or else I'll just have to kill him. If anyone were to compare social ranking, then no one else's status was higher than Jing Nan's in the field. He stood there and looked at the ranking on the eagle statue. He watched as the figures showing the number of steps taken increased continuously behind Mo Su's name. The number had now reached 677. His pupils shrank in anticipation, but his face remained passive. It was as if what had happened was still not enough to shock him. Mo sang, once Su Ming finishes the test, let him stay in Wind Stream tribe, this place will be more beneficial to him. Jing Nan spoke slowly as he watched the number of steps taken change once again and become 684. Once he heard Jing Nan's words, Mo Sang only smiled faintly. He was also shocked inwardly that Su Ming could obtain such a great result. This had completely exceeded his expectations, but there was a reason why he told Su Ming to not worry about revealing his power in the first place. Don't be anxious. We can talk about this once the test ends, Mo Su spoke unhurriedly. There was love and kindness within his eyes as he looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue. When he saw that Mo Sang did not immediately reject his proposal, a flash passed through Jing Nan's eyes. With his level of intelligence, it was only natural that he knew that the conditions he proposed to obtain Su Ming would not be enough. If he can go past 750 steps, then I will give him the treatment only the son of a tribe leader deserves in Wind Stream tribe like Chen Chong and Wu Sen. If he can go past 800 steps, then he'll become a candidate for my berserker's son. Jing Nan spoke slowly. What if he goes higher? Mo Sang turned around and looked at Jing Nan. Higher, all right. If he can climb more than 850 steps, then I'll give him the same privileges and help I provide for Yi Wang. If he can go to the 900th step, then if he agrees to join Wind Stream tribe, between him and Yi Wang, I'll elect whosoever reaches Awakening Realm first as my berserker's son. Jing Nan fell into momentary silence and looked at Mo Sang before he spoke slowly. He's already at the 700th step. Mo Sang smiled faintly. 700. Su Ming panted harshly as sweat fell continuously off his body onto the stairs. He stood on the 700th step. Dawn was about to arrive, and the moon was starting to darken. Moving forward under this pressure was incredibly hard. A few more blood veins appeared on his body once he arrived at the 700th step. Su Ming did not see how many blood veins had emerged. There was only one thought in his mind: he would continue walking forward until he reached his limit. He let his breathing calm down a bit. Su Ming lifted his foot once again and moved towards the 701st step. Yi Wang was sitting on the 803rd step unmoving at that moment. The entire mountain was very quiet. He was at the southern side of the mountain while Su Ming was at the northern side. They were on two different parts of the mountain. When dawn was about to arrive and the moon started to darken as if daylight was about to arrive at any moment, Yi Wang opened his eyes and looked at the moon. Once daylight is here, I'll begin my last charge. This time, I'll do my best to get to the 900th step. Yi Wang mumbled as a confident smile appeared on his lips. I'm pretty certain that there aren't many people left on the mountain. There should be less than 10, not including myself. I wonder if there's anyone who managed to make it through the 562nd step. But there shouldn't be any. There was a calm pride on Yi Wang's face, but after a moment of silence, he still chose to take out the plate and look. He had initially planned to just take a glance at it to see how many people were left on the mountain. It was just an action of someone who was looking down on other people's actions as he waited for daylight to arrive. His face was calm as his gaze fell upon the plate. He was just going to take a glance. Yet just as he was about to avert his gaze, he was suddenly stupefied. He looked at the plate once again, this time with concentration. Second. Mo Su, 716 steps. Mo Su, he's walking at night. What an idiot. Yi Wang was quiet for a while, then he looked away from the plate. He closed his eyes and continued meditating calmly as he waited for daylight to arrive. There was not an ounce of panic within him, but there was a light and almost unnoticeable tremble on his eyelids, almost as if they betrayed that it was difficult for him to truly calm down. Mo Su's breathing was rapid as he continued walking forward. His mind was blank, and there was only a sort of willpower pushing his body forward, making him continue to walk forth. The blood veins on his body gradually increased. With the addition of each blood vein, he would have additional strength to go on. With that frenzied pace he put on, he walked past the 725th step, 738th step, 751st step, 763rd step, 779th step. The thunderous roars continued with no signs of stopping in his body, but his legs were trembling, and his body seemed to be swaying. It was especially so for his feet, which seemed to have gotten glued to the mountain. Every single time he lifted his legs, pain would shoot through his entire body. He gritted his teeth and let out a low growl. Su Ming lifted his leg once again and moved towards the 780th step. There was only one more step away from his target this time, the 781st step. His eyes were bloodshot. The red within his eyes was like a fire burning and crackling, as if it was about to burn Su Ming's entire body to ashes. There was only one more step left right before his eyes. All the blood veins started circulating within Su Ming's body with a loud sound and squeezed out a bit of strength for Su Ming to lift his leg and move to the 781st step. The moment his feet were about to land on the step, his body seemed to be unable to bear the pressure any longer. Just as he was about to break down, Su Ming lifted his head and roared towards the sky. He must make it there. He had to. He lifted his right hand and bit into his index finger. Fresh blood flowed out of the wound, and he swiped it on his eyes abruptly. He will begin the third burning of his blood here, the one that he had not managed to complete successfully. The moment the blood on his index finger touched his left eye, the entire mountain seemed to move as if the sky had collapsed and the earth had been split apart. At that instant, the roar from the beast suddenly reverberated from within the black mist on the mountain. Yi Wang, who finally calmed down on the 803rd step, jolted at that moment. He heard the roar from the top of the mountain and felt the entire mountain shaking and roaring as well. An unbelievable change had happened. He opened his eyes abruptly, and his pupils shrank instinctively. He had a feeling that the mountain's sudden change was linked to that person called Mo Su. Without any hesitation, he immediately took out the plate and took another look at it. The moment he read that Mo Su had taken 781 steps, Yi Wang's expression changed and he stood up abruptly. Chapter 66. The Final Battle. 2nd. Mo Su, 781 steps. There was a serious expression on Yi Wang's face that was never seen before. He had his own dignity and pride. To him, there was no one who could be his opponent. The one that he wanted to compete against was himself. Yet all his pride was shaken the moment the mountain roared and shook. It was as if at that instant a strong and unimaginable presence surged from the surroundings, shaking Yi Wang's heart. He could not remain steady, but neither could he ignore it. He stared at the plate in his hands. Never in his life had he been so aware and taken so much notice of someone. This person had far surpassed Wu Sen, Chen Chong, and everyone else besides Yi Wang himself. Now, he was only 20-odd steps away from him. This sort of distance had aroused a sense of pressure and anxiety that was rarely seen and nearly non-existent within Yi Wang. Mo Su, can you qualify to be my rival? There was a cold glint within Yi Wang's eyes. Anyone who would meet that cold look would feel the pride of one not allowing anyone to surpass him. Yi Wang was prideful and aloof. Since young, he surpassed all his peers with his incredible talent and stood at the top. He was also the berserker's son within Windstream tribe. His status within the tribe could be seen by how people treated him when they saw him. He did not need to form cliques with other people, nor did he need to be enigmatic, or be surrounded by other people and revered, because no matter where he went, he would automatically destroy all those cliques. As long as he was there, he would become the brightest existence within the crowd. If he was in the area, then his brilliance would outshine even the most admired person. He was Yi Wang. He looked down on all his peers, or perhaps more accurately speaking, he did not look down on them. He was simply indifferent towards them, ignoring their existence. He was indifferent towards all his peers because he believed that no one had the right to make him notice them and become his opponent. Yet now, with Su Ming's appearance, for the first time in his life, Yi Wang had the feeling that he found his opponent, and the rare sight of him paying attention to something came to be. Then, let's compete against each other. Yi Wang took in a deep breath. He may have looked as if he was gradually returning to his normal state of mind, but he was unable to calm down. If he was truly calm, then he could have waited until daylight before he started moving towards the top of the mountain. This was his plan beforehand. Yet with Su Ming's appearance, this plan changed. This was the first time in Yi Wang's life that he changed his original plans due to someone around his age. With a swing of his sleeve, Yi Wang lifted his feet with a serious look on his face as he walked towards the 804th step. The moment his footsteps landed, his body trembled and his breathing became a bit swifter. Yet, he did not stop. He continued onwards. At that moment, Su Ming stood on the 781st step. His right hand was trembling. The moment his blood touched his right eye, he felt the entire mountain trembling. He felt the strange aura that came from all around Black Flame Mountain expand by leaps and bounds in this place. This was not something that the tiny Black Flame Mountain could compare. It was just a tiny bit of blood, but the aura that erupted forth far surpassed the amount when he finished covering his eyes with blood the second time in Black Flame Mountain. The black mist in the entire mountain started rolling forth violently at that instant. The moment it seemed like a wild beast roared towards the sky from the top of the mountain, and the thunderous roars echoed madly within the mountain. The mist started rolling even more furiously, causing the entire mountain to seem to be alive with excitement. Wisps of air quickly surged into Su Ming's body, causing him to tremble violently, and the sensation as if he was about to explode surged forward once again. Su Ming had once felt the force of the sensation when he previously tried the third burning of his blood, yet the force had become much stronger than before. A trickle of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. His right hand trembled, and he had no choice but to put it down. The moment he placed his hand down, the roars from within the mountain stopped, and the mist returned to its calm state. The strange aura coming from all around him also disappeared without a trace. Everything returned to a state of calmness. It was as if that scene had only been an illusion, and it had never happened. Su Ming panted harshly and stood on the 781st step. He looked at the summit before him, but did not sit down. He chose to close his eyes while standing instead, and used the very last step with the balanced pressure among the numbers the elder told him to begin refining his body. At that moment, an incredible uproar stirred up a wave of discussions within the field located under the foot of the mountain. Due to the seal, they did not sense the incredible sight that happened within the mountain just moments ago. They only saw the rankings on the 9 eagle statues. They saw the person called Mo Su reach the 781st step, and there was only 20-something steps left between him and Yi Wang, who was in first place. The shock they felt stemming from within their hearts, and the looks filled with disbelief and dazedness in their eyes lashed against their bodies, causing their minds to become blank. They were reduced to a state where they could only let out cries of shock. They even saw Yi Wang moving. Among the hundreds of people in the field, there were a large portion of them who did not think too much into why Yi Wang decided to continue moving up the mountain. They only thought that Yi Wang should have been moving in the first place. If they were in his place, then they would surely get up from their rest and continue moving. However, the small circle that consisted of all the prodigies from Windstream tribe ranked within the top 50 were familiar with Yi Wang. Their understanding towards Yi Wang was much better than the rest of the peoples in the field. Once they saw the number behind Yi Wang's name change, the shock they felt in their hearts was much greater than of those who were not familiar with him. Yi Wang looked at the plate. He must have looked at the place. With his personality, once he looked at the plate, he should have felt indifferent towards him, but Mo Su is just too amazing. Even Yi Wang can't remain calm because of him. He changed his rhythm. Once Yi Wang makes a decision, he won't change it easily. He must have been thinking about waiting until daylight before he started moving, but now, because of Mo Su, he changed his plans. Wu Sen's face was pale as he sat far away in a corner. He looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue and remained silent. He had been treating Bai Su as his main suspect earlier, but now, he felt that Mo Su might be the real person he should be suspecting, but this is just the first stage. We don't compete on our strengths in this stage, but our potential. From what I can tell, it's not as if I don't have a way to get a definite answer as to who stole my blood either. Wu Sen clenched his fists. There were also the leaders of all the other tribes on the field who were staring at the eagle statues and the ranking. They all had their own thoughts, but the only thing that was similar was how they had similar looks of cold detachment as they watched Windstream make a fool of themselves. After all, since the past, forget the top 3, there had never been any outsider who managed to make it into the top 30, much less the top 10 ranks in the test. Yet now, not only were there 2 outsiders who made it into the top 10, but by the looks of it, that person called Mo Su might very well have the ability to compete for first place. While this made them shocked, it also made them laugh within their hearts. Mo Su, just which tribe do you belong to? Why is it that there has never been such a person that appeared in my tribe? If you're willing to join my tribe, then no matter what price I have to pay, I'd be willing to negotiate with you, the old woman from Dark Dragon tribe lamented, but she also knew that it was impossible. The head of the guards was astounded as he stood among those from Dark Mountain tribe. He let out a huge breath, and he harbored a similar thought as the old woman from Dark Dragon tribe. Bei Ling, who stood beside him, had a hint of extreme passion within his eyes. He looked at Mo Su's name. He knew of everything that happened during the first stage of the test. The strongest person he could get in touch to was Wu Sen. Yet right before his eyes, he saw a stranger manage to obtain the second place and even earn the right to compete for first place. This was something that made him extremely excited. This Mo Su is very strong. Bei Ling spoke softly. That's right, he's really amazing. I wonder which tribe he belongs to. Ah, it's a pity he's not from our tribe. There was admiration within Wu La's eyes. She admired powerful people, especially Mo Su. She saw him rise since the beginning. That sort of feeling, as if she saw the scene personally, made her addicted with it. Don't you think this Mo Su's name is a bit familiar? Lei Chen hesitated for a moment and spoke since the first time he came back. Familiar? Lei Chen, what do you mean? Wu La was momentarily taken aback and turned to look at him. Perhaps I'm thinking too much. I just thought that the elder's name is Mo Sang, and this person's name is Mo Su. No matter how I look at it, it seems like it's the combination of the elder and Su Ming's names. Lei Chen scratched his head and there was uncertainty in his eyes. You're thinking too much. There was a hint of scorn in Wu La's eyes, and she turned her head away to ignore Lei Chen. choosing instead to look at the ranking on the eagle statues. Mo Su, why aren't you moving? Yi Wang is already at the 827th step. Bei Ling did not speak, but the faint hint of disdain in his eyes showed his thoughts towards what Lei Chen had said. Lei Chen fell silent. As the people were discussing and looking at the ranks, the air twisted and suddenly 2 wisps of black mist appeared and traveled to the field before turning into Chen Chong and Bai Su. They arrived almost simultaneously on the field, and they immediately glared at each other when they saw the other. When they returned, the people around them immediately cast their eyes on them. They also caught the attention of Windstream tribes Jing Nan and Mo Sang, who were located at the further end of the field. Chen Chong is pretty good, Mo Sang spoke, smiling faintly. Compared to Su Ming, he's not much. Jing Nan still looked calm, but he had been inwardly astounded since a long time ago. He may have been somewhat expecting this for some time now, but he did not expect Su Ming to surpass his expectations so much and manage to reach this point. Mo Sang, let me take care of Su Ming. Jing Nan turned his head and looked at Mo Sang as he spoke seriously. Let's continue watching. We can talk later, Mo Su smiled and said. At that moment, a cry of surprise rose abruptly. At the very instant someone shouted within the field, everyone noticed the change. Mo Sus finally moving. This is the final battle. Within the mountain shrouded by black mist, Su Ming stood on the 781st step with his eyes closed. He opened them suddenly, and a bright glint flashed briefly through his eyes. There were only 2 blood veins left on his body. Chapter 67. The burning of blood once again. Using the state of mind to move into fine control becomes much harder later. This is the limit of the 781st step. I have 2 blood veins left. The 2 blood veins seem to be stuck together. I can't make them disappear separately, Su Ming muttered softly. But this is the last number. This mountain can be said to be a holy training ground. Once I leave, it'll be very difficult to find a chance like this again. Su Ming's brows gradually creased. 32, 79, 248, 371, 563, 781, these are the 6 numbers the elder told me. This should be the secret the elder discovered during his time here, but, perhaps after the 781st step, there is another, or maybe multiple places like these. Those are the places that even the elder didn't discover. Determination gradually appeared in Su Ming's eyes. After falling into momentarily silence, Su Ming looked at the plate in his hands and at the rank he got. That rank made him so excited it seemed as if his chi was about to start circulating around his body then and there. Second, he retrieved his gaze from the plate and lowered his head. After eventually calming down, a thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. I've already attained my wish, now, I can give up. As Su Ming mumbled, there was hesitation in his eyes. But once I give up, then the training with fine control will be stuck in this state, and I will never complete it. There must be a similar stage up there that has the same balanced pressure. Su Ming did not hesitate for long. He did not want to give up this chance. He knew that the tribe was in danger and felt the elder's worry. He had to become stronger. I cannot miss this chance. I have to find the place that the elder did not discover. The hesitation in Su Ming's eyes immediately turned into determination and resolution. He lifted his legs and abruptly moved towards the 782nd step. The moment his foot landed, Su Ming immediately trembled. A strong and great pressure fell upon his body. As he trembled, a large amount of blood veins appeared on his body with a force akin to an explosion. The light from the blood veins scattered everywhere and seemed to resonate with the dimming moon in the sky. It caused Su Ming to growl, and he gritted his teeth as he continued onwards. 783, 784, 785, when he reached the 796th step, Su Ming's hair was in a mess, and his body trembled in a manner akin to convulsing. Each step he took seemed to take all his strength. His entire body was in extreme pain as if he was about to break under the incredible pressure. The feeling that he was about to break was completely different from the sensation of the burning of his blood. The burning of blood was a force that burst forth from within his body, as if he could no longer contain the energy. Yet now, the pressure from the mountain was a force pressing against him from outside as if it was trying to crush his body. The blood veins were fighting against the pressure non-stop as the chi in his body circulated, supporting his body so that he would not be crushed to pieces. His resistance towards the pressure also increased due to the nourishment provided by the moonlight. With each step he took, a trickle of blood began leaking out from the corner of his mouth. His face began twisting into a furious expression, but within that viciousness was a shocking amount of resolution and determination. I have to find that spot. I have to complete fine control. Su Ming took another step and arrived at the 799th step. At this moment, his vision was beginning to become fuzzy, and he seemed to be unable to take another step. Yi Wang also looked quite pathetic. He was panting harshly, and his hair was a mess. There were veins popping on his face, and his blood veins surfaced on the skin all over his body. He struggled up the 837th step when a dull pain started in his chest. The rapid beating of his heart made him feel faint. Yet the moment he looked at the plate, there was madness within his eyes. Mo Su. Yi Wang lifted his head suddenly and growled towards the sky. He lifted his feet again and moved, but his speed had obviously slowed. Su Ming tried 5 times, but no matter what, he could not lift his feet. It was as if a pair of giant hands pressed against his body, causing his entire body to be in great pain. It was as if his bones were about to be crushed. He could not lift his feet. The invisible pair of giant hands were merciless and apathetic as they pressed against Su Ming, causing him to be unable to stand straight, and eventually his body started to bend. He was unable to continue standing and seemed to begin falling downwards. Su Ming's face was ashen, and sweat fell non-stop from his body. The dizziness became stronger, and a sense of powerlessness appeared in his heart. He struggled to lift his head slightly, looking at the dimming moon and the vast sky. Wherefore doth thou cry, O blue sky? Gradually, these words echoed in his head. He laughed suddenly. That bark of laughter only served to make the pain in his body stronger, but within Su Ming's eyes, the blood-red moon became even clearer, and it erupted with a blazing fire. I won't give up. Su Ming lifted his head and roared suddenly. That roar echoed, reflecting the source of why he could suddenly rise up through the ranks. As he roared, Su Ming struggled to lift up his right hand and bit into it once again. There was madness within his eyes, and once again, he wiped the blood on his left eye. The moment he spread his blood over his eye, the entire mountain moved abruptly. The mist rolled forward like furious waves and billows of air erupting forth from the entire wind-stream mountain, like endless waves from all around the mountain towards Su Ming. There was also the sound of a wild beast roaring suddenly at the top of the mountain at that moment. The roar was like an illusion that echoed through the entire mountain and reached into Su Ming and Yi Wang's hearts. Su Ming coughed out a mouthful of blood. Countless strange gusts of air entered his body and caused banging sounds to echo in his blood as his blood veins increased once again. He roared and gradually straightened his bent body as he resisted the pressure from the invisible pair of hands until he stood up straight. The pressure from the hands seemed to be unable to suppress the endless amount of air entering Su Ming's body and was also unable to suppress the power of the burning of his blood under the moonlight. Su Ming stood up. It was dawn. The moon, which should have been dimming away, seemed to give out its last glow at that moment. It suddenly looked clear in the sky, and as Su Ming stood up, he took a step forward abruptly and moved towards the 800th step, then took another few steps forward without stopping. 802, 805, 811, 814, 817. He stood on the 817th step with bloodshot eyes. The blood in his veins seemed to be burning. He was halfway through the third burning of his blood. He had only managed to smear half of his left eye with blood. There was an explosive force within his body that was bursting forth. His entire body seemed to be on the verge of breaking down and exploding. Su Ming knew that if he used external strength and forcefully commenced with the third burning of his blood, he would definitely be unable to take it. Yet within this mountain, there was a great pressure, and it aided him. With his body as the center, there was an explosive force coming from within his body, and there was an oppressive force pressing against his body, causing him to obtain a chance to complete the third burning that he had been unable to finish. Su Ming's right index finger trembled. He let out a roar as he did so and smeared his entire left eye with fresh blood, and the burning of blood started. The entire mountain trembled. More strange gusts of air rushed forward maddeningly and entered into Su Ming from every pore of his body rapidly, causing the number of blood veins on his body to increase at an incredible pace. I have to go up. Su Ming lifted his feet and moved forward once again. 819, 823, 827. When he reached the 839th step, blood-red mist gushed out from his body, but there was only perseverance and determination in his eyes. He did not find the balance he was looking for among all the steps he had taken so far, but Su Ming believed that there must definitely be such a place on the remaining steps. Mo Su. Yi Wang was also in a frenzied state. He was at the 845th step at that moment. When the plate showed that Mo Su took 839th step, how could he not be mad? As the best among his peers, his pride did not allow anyone to surpass him. His dignity insisted that no matter the cost, he had to maintain his position as the most powerful person. Veins popped out on his face and his eyes were completely bloodshot. The aloof and prideful look was no longer on his face, having turned into an expression of fury and vexation. He lifted his right hand in a struggle and roared as he hit his chest. Immediately, a large amount of power surged through his entire body. At the same time, the power traveled through all parts of his flesh and bones, a blood-red mark appearing on his chest. It was a horn, a blood-red horn that belonged to a wild beast. The horn was a picture. It was not bright red but was slightly dark in color. As Yi Wang hit his chest with his palm, the horn immediately glowed with a piercing red light and fused into Yi Wang's body. It caused his entire body to gain new strength. He lifted his legs and rushed forward. 845, 846, and he continued right until he stood on the 861st step. Yi Wang coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood. The red light from the horn picture on his chest also faded away until the color became even dimmer, as if it was about to fade away at any moment. Mo Su, you can be proud now. You are the only one who has managed to force me to activate the Mark of Calamity. The Elder forcefully drew for me with 37 drops of his blood of calamity so that I could absorb it and improve my chances of arriving at Awakening Realm exponentially. I did not want to use this power forcefully. This has no benefit for me, and it would be much better if I just absorbed it slowly. Mo Su, you can be proud now. Yi Wang gritted his teeth and lowered his head to look at the plate as he panted. With just one glance, he widened his eyes. I am impossible. The number behind Mo Su's name was increasing rapidly. 841, 843, 845, 849. Right before his eyes, Yi Wang saw the number change to 859. There were only 2 steps between them. Yi Wang had forcefully absorbed the blood of calamity, yet not only did he not widen the distance between them, they had even become this close. However, if he did not make the decision to absorb the blood, then perhaps he would have been overtaken by now. Impossible. There was disbelief and shock in Yi Wang's eyes. He mumbled and lifted his right hand once again. Within that gesture was a hint of ruthlessness and madness as he pressed his palm on the dim picture of the horn on his chest. He coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood, but a blood-red glow that reached the sky burst forth from Yi Wang's entire body. Only the faint outline of his body remained as he was encompassed by the blood-red glow. Mo Su, Chapter 68, 6th Level of the Blood Solidification Realm. The final battle within the top of the mountain commenced with both Su Ming and Yi Wang maddeningly letting out all their strength with force akin to an explosion. Su Ming activated the burning of his blood, while Yi Wang forcefully absorbed his elder's berserker blood. All this was unknown to most of the people gathered in the field under the foot of the mountain. At that moment, as the battle reached its most intense state, the mood among the people within the field also reached its peak. What an intense battle! This is what I call a true intense battle. Yi Wang managed to reach the 861st step from the 845th step, but Mo Su is also chasing close behind him. He actually managed to close up the distance between him and Yi Wang to only 2 steps once he reached the 859th step from the 20 to 30 odd steps between them just now. Just who among them will be number 1? Discussions, roars, and cries of surprise stirred up continuously within the field. The people were filled with excitement and anticipation. At that moment, they had already ignored all the complicated feelings within them. There was only one thought within their minds. They wanted to know who would be the first at the end of the match. Who will be the first? This question also stirred up a storm among the circle formed by the prodigies ranked within the top 50. They were as excited as the people around them. The more they were familiar with Yi Wang and the more knowledge they had towards the terrors of the pressure among the steps in the 800s, the more excited they were. Yi Wang has managed to place first multiple times. This time, can he retain his position? This Mo Su, he's just too strong. He actually managed to push Yi Wang to this state. There are only 2 steps between them now. I thought that Yi Wang would definitely be the most powerful of us all within the region Wind Stream tribe rules, and no one would be able to compare to him, but now, I know that I've underestimated outsiders. Compared to these people, the leaders from all the other tribes had all stood up and were staring at the eagle statues. Their faces were not just filled with shock, but amazement and astonishment. Just which tribe does this Mo Su belong to? Who is this child? If he can truly surpass Yi Wang, then Wind Stream's shock will be great. No matter what rank Mo Su obtains, from here on, there won't be anyone who will not know his name. Bei Ling clenched his fists in excitement. There was a roaring sound in his heart. He wanted Mo Su to win. Wu La's face was also flushed with excitement. She had already stood up since a long time ago and was staring at the competition between the first and second places. Chen Chong too was staring at Mo Su's name with a dumbfounded expression. At that moment, if someone would have told him that before the start of the first stage, Mo Su was among the group of people that went to him and watched him laugh with his friends and walk towards Bai Ling, Chen Chong would have definitely not believed it. Bai Su clenched his fists and stared at the eagle statue. There was anger and maddening jealousy in his eyes. He still believed that Mo Su's glory should have belonged to him. That damn Mo Su stole it away from him. Located far in a corner of the field was Jing Nan. His expression was no longer blank but shocked. He was also taken aback by the sight. He looked at the name on the eagle statue and watched as Yi Wang suddenly rose up the stairs quickly. He could even tell that Yi Wang must have forcefully absorbed his berserker blood. Just where did Su Ming come from? What is his origin? How could he have so much potential? Jing Nan took in a deep breath. He could no longer hide the shock in his eyes. Mo Sang, is he truly a prince of the great Yu dynasty? Jing Nan hesitated for a moment before he asked softly. Mo Sang smiled faintly, but he did not speak. In truth, he was unable to calm down either. There was already a storm raging in his heart. At the same time within the mountain, the mist was rolling forward and the mountain was trembling. The roars traveling from the top of the mountain were becoming clearer. It was as if there was a message hidden within the roars. Su Ming trembled. There was madness on his face. His right index finger was pressed against his right eye. Half of his right eye was already smeared with blood. The difficulty of the third burning of blood exceeded Su Ming's expectations. He did not expect that he had yet to complete it even though he was here, in this place where there was a great pressure aiding him. The previous 2 burnings could not even begin to compare to this time. It was as if the third burning of blood among the 9 required times was a hurdle, an obstacle in his path. He stood at the 859th step. This was still not the place he was looking for. As he was going through the ritual of burning his blood, Su Ming felt as if his entire body had just gone up in flames. The blood in his body seemed to be experiencing some sort of change. It was as if it was changing rapidly from normal blood to fire. Su Ming had even considered giving up due to the pain in his body and the oppression from the external world, but the moment he remembered the danger that loomed over the tribe and the worry on the elder's old and wizened face, Su Ming was willing to bear through all the pain. He had to become stronger. He wanted to help the elder. He wanted to protect his own home and his tribe. He wanted to help the tribe to kill its enemies. He would use his blood and tell his enemies that no one was allowed to touch Dark Mountain tribe. Su Ming let out a roar as if letting out all his pain and suffering. While shouting, he continued sweeping his right index finger across his right eye slowly but surely and resolutely. At that moment, no matter who it was that might want to stop Su Ming from protecting his tribe and his people, they would become his mortal enemy. His eyes felt as if there was a fire burning inside of them. Su Ming lifted his feet and walked forward with reckless steps. He moved from the 859th step to the 860th, 861st, 862nd, 863rd, right until he reached the 877th step. Blood mist gushed forth once more from his body. He reached his limit. 877. That was his limit. He could not continue any longer. Let mine blood burn. At the moment he reached his limit, Su Ming lifted his head towards the skies and roared. As the roar echoed through the skies, the moon let out the most brilliant ray of light, and without anyone seeing it, it fell from the sky and fused into Su Ming's body. The mountain underneath Su Ming's feet trembled. The mist billowed towards the skies with an intensity that had never happened before. It enveloped the entire area and seemed to be turning into a mysterious shape. It looked like a giant creature, but the shape was vague and could not be clearly seen. As the mountain was filled with tremors, the indescribable strange air erupted forth from the mountain. With Su Ming at the center, it rushed towards him at a rapid pace. The moment it entered his body, Su Ming completely dyed his right eye with the blood from his right index finger. The third burning of blood was completed. A loud boom resonated through Su Ming's body. All the blood veins in his body appeared, and the number began increasing by a large margin. As they manifested one by one, the strong presence within Su Ming's body became stronger. It was almost within an instant that the blood veins on Su Ming's body increased to 109. A thunderous roar rang within his body, and he broke through the 5th level of the blood solidification realm and reached the 6th level. The 6th level of the blood solidification realm. The blood veins were still increasing. As they manifested one by one, Su Ming lifted his feet and walked towards the 878th step with one swift moment. The instant his feet landed, the entire mountain trembled once more. The strange air continuously entered his body, and Su Ming went to the 879th step, continuing onwards. 883, 885, 889. When he reached the 899th step, the blood veins on Su Ming's body increased to 156. It was as if all the qi within his body had turned into flames. Like there was a fire within him strong enough to burn the sky and the earth. Yet within his eyes, the shadow of the blood-red moon gradually disappeared and was hidden away. It was as if after the third burning of blood, the moon in his eyes reverted inwards and no longer revealed traces outward. Only now could Su Ming be considered to have mastered a little bit of the fire berserker art. He lifted his feet and moved towards the 900th step. He stood there and looked forward. From his location, he could see the statue of a beast crouching at the top of the mountain not too far away. An indefinable feeling filled Su Ming's entire being. The statue of the beast looked like a tiger, but there was a huge pair of wings on its back. It was as if it was struggling to fly up, but was pinned down by numerous chains. He could sense an incredible grudge and a faint hint of bleakness from it. He looked at the statue and felt as if the statue was also looking at him. The man and the beast seemed to be staring at each other quietly while standing at the top of the mountain with nearly 100 steps between them. After a long time, Su Ming closed his eyes. He could sense a familiar presence from the statue of the beast. That presence belonged to the Fire Berserker. That was a statue of a mythical beast from Fire Berserker tribe. When he closed his eyes, Su Ming also found the spot he had been looking for. The 900th step was the 7th spot with the balanced pressure. He stood there. There were 156 blood veins on his body. They were quickly circulating with each heartbeat. As dawn was about to end and daylight about to arrive, Su Ming begun the final refining of his body. Yi Wang's hair was a mess. His face was filled with incredible madness. He would pound against his chest without hesitation before he even walking 10 steps. The picture of the horn became fainter just as the red glow on his body became fainter. He walked forward without caring about the consequences. His pride and his dignity would not allow him to lose. 881, 882, 897, 899, Yi Wang pounded against his chest with his right hand. The picture of the horn dissipated with a loud sound. Once it completely disappeared, it turned into a final surge of energy that filled Yi Wang's entire body. It caused Yi Wang to roar and move towards the 900th step, then continue onward until he reached the 905th step. The moment he reached it, Yi Wang coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood and slowly collapsed. The plate in his hands fell out. The moment it left his body, it turned into a gust of black mist that surrounded Yi Wang and disappeared from the mountain. There was only Su Ming left on the mountain. There was dead silence on the mountain. The field was also similarly silent. When Yi Wang appeared in the field, he was unconscious. As Jing Nan watched with a dark expression, some people automatically went forward and carried Yi Wang quickly to a corner to help him recover. There was only one name that had yet to turn gray on the 9 eagle statues. Second. Mo Su, 900 steps. Everyone waited. Chapter 69. Persevere. Persevere. There were no longer any conversations in the field. At that moment, all the people within the field were breathing heavily as they watched the only name that had yet to turn gray on the 9 eagle statues. Mo Su was only 5 steps away from first place. At that moment, Yi Wang, who was placed first, gradually opened his eyes under the help of Shi Hai and the others. There were still some traces of red in his eyes as he stared at the ranking on the eagle statue nearby with a complicated look on his face. By his side, Shi Hai lowered his head, seemingly talking to Yi Wang, but Yi Wang ignored him as if he did not hear a word. He simply stared at the ranks on the eagle statue. Shi Hai frowned and sighed before he turned away and left. I am Yi Wang, I won't lose. But I won't use any underhanded tricks to win. Yi Wang clenched his fists. At that moment, he was no longer the prideful strongest youth, but a normal tribe member who gave it his all and arrived at the 905th step, forced to retreat due to a sustained injury. The anxiety he felt was much stronger than of anyone else's within the field. Even so, he still had his pride and dignity. Shi Hai's suggestion was a form of humiliation to him. Amidst the silence, the sounds of breathing among the people became even clearer. It was especially so for those who treated Mo Su as an entertainment in the beginning. At that moment, their minds were blank, and there was only disbelief and shock left. They had just witnessed a miracle. They saw a person rising up with their own eyes. They saw something so insane it reduced them to a state of awe. Never had there been a person who managed to reach the top from the last place. Never had there been a person who surpassed Wu Sen, Bai Su, and Chen Chong, much less pushed Yi Wang until he was injured, forcing him to leave Wind Stream Tribe competition's first stage. Because of that, as of then, the mountain belonged to one person only, Mo Su. The prodigies who entered the top 50 ranks were now in a state of dead silence. They looked at Mo Su's name on the 9 eagle statues silently with complicated expressions on their faces: admiration, jealousy, expectancy, and other emotions. The leaders from all the tribes were in the same state. There was nothing different in what they felt. Mo Su now held a very high position within their hearts. This person was bound to create a storm the moment he returned. Too many people wanted to know just who he was, how did he look like. Yet due to Su Ming's incredibly unassuming looks, it was rare that anyone would have taken note of his existence before the test. Even the man who pulled him along to meet Chen Chong was looking at the name on the eagle statue anxiously with excitement and anticipation. Only an old man with a sharp mouth and cheeks of a monkey stood in the crowd with a shocked expression. He was certain that every single time someone gave up and returned, he would be the first to see them. Yet at that moment, when everyone except Mo Su returned to the field, he discovered belatedly that among these people who came back, none of them were the young fellow he first approached. Impossible, Bei Qing muttered. He looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue, still finding it hard within him to believe it. Could it really be him? Mo Sang and Jing Nan did not speak to each other where they were at the corner located further away. They were quietly looking at the eagle statue. Mo Sang still had a blank expression on his face, but his heart was pounding rapidly against his chest. Jing Nan had witnessed Su Ming's entire progress. At that moment, the shock on his face could no longer be hidden. He did not expect that Su Ming, whose existence was akin to an ant earlier, who he did not think too highly of, and who he thought would be lucky to even get into the top 50, had time and again exceeded his expectations and delivered multiple surprises to him. Now, he had even reduced Jing Nan to a state of shock. Jing Nan thought about Su Ming's origins seriously. Mo Sang's words once again echoed in his head and made him more uncertain. A long time passed by, but there was no hint of impatience among the people in the field. They were all waiting. When the first rays of light appeared at the horizon and morning arrived, Su Ming opened his eyes where he stood on the 900th step. There was only one blood vein left on his body. As he opened his eyes, that blood vein disappeared. He lifted his head and looked at the top of the mountain, which was lit up by sunlight. It was a pity that it was shrouded by mist and was not clear as it had been during the night, Su Ming fell into momentary silence and looked at the plate in his hand. 905, Su Ming mumbled. Since I'm already here, I might as well compete against him. Su Ming lifted his head. His eyes were filled with determination. He took a deep breath of the refreshing air during the morning and moved his feet towards the 901st step. But it was already morning and there was no longer any moonlight. Su Ming felt the pressure falling upon him. Yet he was fortunate that the pressure had lessened greatly because it was day. He felt almost the same as he did when it was midnight. Yet even so, he was already at the 900s. He was already very near the summit. The force of the pressure here was enough to crush a person alive. One step in this place was akin to several dozens and even hundreds of steps at the lower parts of the stairs. The instant Su Ming's right foot landed, his entire body trembled. All 156 blood veins manifested on his body and surrounded him to resist against the maddening pressure coming towards him. Su Ming moved. The moment he moved, the people down in the field who had been waiting silently for a long period of time seemed to have finally found an outlet for their thoughts. The moment Su Ming moved, all their long-stifled emotions were let out. 901. He's at 901. Numerous pairs of eyes were focused on the only name that was not gray on the 9 eagle statues. At that moment, they had forgotten everything, and in their eyes, in their heads, the only thing left was the one name that had yet to dim. Chen Chong trembled and took in a sharp breath. He stared at the ranking. This scene was definitely the climax of the test. It was in fact, much more intense and exciting than of any other previous times the test was held. He did not want to miss even a single moment of it. Bai Su clenched his fists. The cold glare in his eyes became thicker with hints of jealousy hidden within that seemed to have turned into a strong killing intent filled with resentment. The other person who had similar killing intent was the tribe leader from Black Mountain Tribe. He stared at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue with such a cold expression it was like ice that would never melt. 902. The moment the number behind Mo Su's name turned into 902, all the hearts of the people watching in the field jumped. It was as if with each step Su Ming took, he was not just stepping on the stairs on the mountain, but he was also stomping on all the hearts of the people gathered down below. This was a rare sight. This alone meant that right then, Su Ming was regarded with great importance by the people. It was clear that each and every one of his actions could stir up their emotions. In the past, this was Yi Wang's glory and pride alone. Yet now, Yi Wang had turned into a bystander. He sat at a distance not too far away as he watched the changes in the number of steps Su Ming took, his heart lurching with each step taken. This sort of feeling was foreign to him, and it was an emotion that was carved deep into his bones. 903. He's at 903. There are only 2 steps left before he ties with Yi Wang. With 3 steps, he'll surpass Yi Wang and place first. Can he become first? The pupils of the old woman from Dark Dragon tribe shrank as her breathing became rapid. Bai Ling, who was by her side, was no longer daydreaming, but had her head lifted as she looked at Mo Su's name. Her brows were slightly crinkled. Shan Hen was still sitting quietly at the place where Dark Mountain tribe was gathered. He may still be sitting, but there was a strange glint within his narrowed eyes. Bai Ling was in a state of excitement. With his current status within Dark Mountain tribe, he would not have revealed such an expression so easily and had to make sure that he was always aloof, but at that moment, he could no longer suppress his excitement. He had even envisioned himself as Mo Su. That sort of thrill he felt as Mo Su surpassed the prodigy of Windstream tribe was so thrilling it made him clench his fists. Wu La was even more excited than he was. Her face was completely red as she stood there with her heart pounding rapidly against her chest. She wanted to just jump up and tell Mo Su to walk faster. Lei Chen had already given up on wondering whether Mo Su was Su Ming. There were just too many uncertainties to it. 903. Mo Su is at 903. Wu La was after all, still just a girl. At that moment, she was pointing at the name on the eagle statue excitedly. There was a flash of exhilaration in her eyes. There was even a strange emotion hidden faintly under that layer of excitement. An even stronger commotion stirred up within the field. While buzzing sounds echoed around, Yi Wang sat there with his legs crossed. His eyes were once again bloodshot. He clenched his fist tightly. It was difficult to use words to express the array of emotions within his heart at that moment. He was once the best among all. He once stood at the top and held all the attention and anticipation from the people in the field. Yet now, he had become one of the bystanders. That sort of change was difficult for him to accept. Even the cries of surprise and shock were like a knife stabbing and twisting into his chest, causing him great pain. Su Ming stood at the 903rd step. He may have been standing straight, but his body was trembling as if he was about to fall at any moment. Despite it being daytime, the pressure in the 900s was still unimaginably great. He only took 3 steps forward, but Su Ming felt as if he had reached his limit. There was pain traveling through his entire body, and it was no longer pain that could be resisted by using the blood veins as a shield. There were moaning sounds echoing around his ears, and those sounds came from his bones, telling that they could no longer bear with the pressure. As he stood there, Su Ming panted harshly. His heart pounded as if it was about to break, and each heartbeat turned into a sharp pain that turned his face pale. There were only 2 more steps till 905. There was no way he could rest here. Due to the presence of the pressure, even if he were to rest, it would be hard for him to circulate the qi in his body. Su Ming trembled. He lifted his right foot and placed it on the 904th step. The moment his foot landed, a thunderous roar arose from his entire body. Su Ming coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood and his body seemed to fall, but he bore with it until he stood straight, then he moved his left foot towards the 904th step. His entire body felt weak. It was as if the entire mountain was pressing against his body. His vision swirled. Chapter 70. Care to walk in circles with me? 904. The moment Su Ming landed on the 904th step, all the hearts of the people gathered in the field jolted at the same time. A complicated look settled on Jing Nan's face. He looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue silently. By his side, Mo Sang also kept quiet. At a further corner, Yi Wang's heart was pounding. He wanted to continue sitting, but his body had instinctively stood up as he stared intently at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue. He did not spare his attention to anything else. In fact, no one had paid attention to him when he stood up. At that moment, everyone's gazes were on the eagle statues and Mo Su's name. Anxiety, restraint, and silence formed a strange sort of force that covered the entire field like a layer of pressure that turned the place into what could only be called the true quiet. They were waiting for Su Ming to move 1 more step until he reached the 905th step. Yet even after a long while, the number behind Mo Su did not change. However, all the people continued waiting. No one spoke, neither did anyone discuss among themselves. Even the sounds of their breathing had weakened. After a while, the number behind Mo Su suddenly changed. The number turned from 904 to 905. The moment the change happened, the entire field erupted in an explosion of sound that shook the surroundings. 905. He tied with Yi Wang. Mo Su, Mo Su, Mo Su. Yi Wang was pale. It was as if there was a great force that knocked into him, causing him to stagger backwards 2 steps. His eyes gradually became blank, and there was a wan smile on his lips. At the same time, the moment Su Ming arrived at the 905th step, his face also turned into a similar shade of white as Yi Wang's. He wanted to take another step forward, but he did not have the strength to do so. He turned around and looked at the mist-covered summit. Su Ming panted harshly, but his eyes were bright. He may not have arrived at the top of the mountain, but at that moment, there was no doubt that he stood at the top. Gradually, Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the sky, which seemed to be within reach, and raised his right hand slowly. He could not touch it. Yet as he closed his eyes, he had the impression that he had closed the distance between himself and the sky. Among all those living on the land, who will be able to see the end of the horizon? Su Ming mumbled. He opened his eyes and no longer looked at the sky. Instead, he cast his gaze into the distance towards the horizon, the point that seemed like the end of the sky. He saw the land in the distance through the mist. There was only an indistinct vast mass of ground beyond. He did not know what that place was. He did not even know whether there was another tribe there. That place was so far away. After a long while, the smile on Su Ming's face became wider. He seemed to have forgotten his fatigue as he took in a deep breath of the refreshing air in the mountain. I don't know whether I can reach Awakening Realm, I don't know whether I can fly in the sky with my own strength like a bird, but now, I'm standing here. I can fly here. There was wind blowing at the moment, lifting up Su Ming's long hair and blowing away the sweat on his body. Su Ming brought out the plate and threw it down towards the foot of the mountain. The plate quickly fell and turned into a gust of black mist, rushing towards Su Ming as if it was going to surround him and bring him away from the mountain. The moment the black mist arrived, Su Ming jumped towards the vast land before him. It was a crazy move. Su Ming's body was entirely suspended in air like he was standing in midair. It was as if he was flying in the sky with his own power. Flying may not seem hard, but in truth, it was a right only reserved for the berserkers who had reached the Awakening Realm. Those who had not awakened could not hope to do so. Su Ming wanted to become stronger. He longed to awaken, he yearned to fly in the sky, even if this sort of flying was only for a short moment. Yet as long as he did it without any help, and did it entirely on his own, then it was fine. The moment he jumped and his feet left the top of the mountain, Su Ming stood in midair. The wind bellowed as it came from an unknown direction and made his hair even messier, as if the heavens themselves were angered. The moment he jumped, there was the sound of roaring waves in Su Ming's head. Yet it was not chaotic but clear, as if time became much slower. Su Ming could clearly feel that he was flying. He saw the sky, the earth. He saw the incredibly tall wind stream mountain. He saw the mythical creature from the fire berserker tribe on the summit. The beast seemed to be looking at him. Besides all these, Su Ming also saw the field on the land that was sealed outside the mountain. He saw all the people gathered on the field. When the black mist came forth and enveloped his body, it turned into a long black misted arc that sped out of the mountain at an extremely fast pace. When the space in the air twisted, it rushed out of the sealed windstream mountain. When Mo Su's name turned gray on the 9 eagle statues on the field and the space in the air twisted, a gust of black mist whistled by and landed on the center of the field. At that moment, all the gazes from the people in the field gathered towards the spot. Wu Sen had already stood up a long time ago and stared at the black mist that appeared. He watched as the black mist scattered away and revealed the faint outline of a person within it. Chen Chong was also staring intently at the shape of the person as he gradually became clearer in the mist. He wanted to know just who Mo Su was. Bai Su was doing the same thing. The killing intent in his eyes was incredibly thick. He did not even bother trying to hide it. He clenched his fists as he stared at the figure in the mist. They were not the only ones doing so. At that moment, everyone in the field was doing the same thing. The hundreds of people from different tribes, who had been paying attention to the event for the past 2 days, were filled with respect as they all looked at the person who was slowly walking out from the mist. Besides the bystanders, the ones who paid even more attention towards Mo Su were the people who took part in the first test together with Mo Su. No matter what rank they obtained, they were all holding their breaths while looking at him. The old woman from Dark Dragon tribe was watching the figure of the person in the mist with bright eyes. She wanted to know how that person looked like and which tribe he belonged to. Si Kong also looked over anxiously. Bai Ling was affected by the serious atmosphere brought by Mo Su's return and could not help herself but to look over. Bai Ling, Wula, Lei Chen, the head of the guards, Shan Hen, and the other people from the other tribes were also staring at the rapidly dissipating mist. Yi Wang took in a deep breath, which seemed to somewhat quell the complicated feelings in his heart. He stared at the person who walked out of the mist. All the people's eyes were focused upon one person. As the mist scattered away and Su Ming walked out, a countless number of gazes were trained on him. When the mist was completely gone and his face was clearly revealed to all the eyes in the field, the entire field fell into dead silence. He had a normal face and wore a normal shirt made of beast skin. He did not have Wu Sen's sullen attitude, Chen Chong's charisma, which allowed him to be surrounded and revered by people, nor did he have Bai Su's mysteriousness, and he most certainly did not have Yi Wang's prideful aloofness. If he stood in a crowd, it would be difficult for anyone to take note of him. That was how normal he was. Yet now, everyone knew that this person might have been normal before the test, but after the test, he was a definitely extraordinary presence. He was just like the sun, and he shocked the world even though he was previously unassuming. When Chen Chong saw Su Ming, he was stunned. He did not think he would be such a normal-looking person. He looked so normal it was difficult for anyone to remember him, but somewhere on his mind, he had a vague recollection that this person had been among the crowd of people who surrounded him before the test, yet at that time, he hadn't cared about that person. Chen Chong had completely ignored him. Bai Su also saw Su Ming. He remembered nothing about him. Even if he had seen Su Ming before, he had immediately ignored him. Thus, upon seeing him, he was also stunned. When Wu Sen's gaze fell upon Su Ming, his pupils shrank. His instincts were screaming at him that there was a high chance that this was the person who had stolen his blood of corpses, but Wu Sen's face became bitter. He did not dare ask for it. This Mo Su was just as prodigious as Yi Wang. From now on, his name would travel to all parts of the region. Praise gradually appeared in the eyes of the old woman from Dark Dragon tribe when she saw the average-looking Su Ming. The first impression was very important to decide whether a person would like or hate another. It was just like how she had looked down on Su Ming, and now approved of Mo Su. It was a wonder what would be her level of shock and conflict in her heart when she learned that both people were actually one and the same. Si Kong's heart pounded against his chest. There was admiration in his eyes. He admired the strong, and it was especially so for this person before him. He was at the same level as Yi Wang. Bai Ling stared at Mo Su with a dumbfounded expression. She was shaking slightly. She saw Mo Su's eyes. Those eyes were somehow familiar to her, but she did not know that those pair of eyes had appeared just 2 days ago and were looking at her. Bai Ling, Wu Le, Lei Chen, and all the other people from Dark Mountain tribe looked at Su Ming as he walked over one step at a time. The entire area was still silent. At that moment, Su Ming's heart pounded hard against his chest. He might have seemed calm on the outside, but he was extremely nervous. He had never been the center of attention of so many people before. After all, he was still just a child. As Su Ming moved forward, the crowd started opening a path for him. It was as if there was a piercing glow that could burn other people on the average-looking Su Ming, causing them to have no choice but to retreat. He might not have Wu Sen's sullenness, but his face, normal as it seemed, brought in people the feeling of serenity and terror akin to the calm before a storm. He might not have Chen Chong's charisma that allowed him to be surrounded by other people like the moon with the stars, but on his average body, it seemed as if there was a resolution that could knock aside all the stars and the moon. He did not need to be surrounded by people. He might not have Yi Wang's prideful aloofness, but he had earned the right for even Yi Wang, prideful as he may be, to have to look at him. It's him. There was a man among the crowd who retreated to open up a path with an awestruck face. He was the one who had pulled Su Ming along to find Chen Chong. He hadn't expected that the person he had dragged with him was Mo Su. Standing further in the distance was an old man with a sharp mouth and cheeks of a monkey. He also widened his eyes. He might have had some guesses earlier, but when he saw it with his own eyes, he was still in a state of disbelief. Before the first stage of the test, there were 3 people who were the center of attention in the field: Chen Chong, Bai Ling, and Yi Wang. These 3 people were like centers of attention that attracted a lot of gazes upon themselves. Yet now, there was only one center of attention in the field: Mo Su. As Su Ming was walking forward, a voice traveled out from within the silent crowd. That voice belonged to Yi Wang. Su Ming stopped. He turned around and looked at Yi Wang standing not far into the distance. This was the first time they had contact, equal contact. It was completely different from the first time Su Ming had looked at him from among the crowd. Mo Su, let's compete again during the second stage. Yi Wang spoke slowly. There was persistence on his face. Even if the match ended with a tie, and they were both placed first, his pride did not allow him to accept that result. He wanted to compete again, even if it was for the second time, or the third. I won't enter the second stage of the test. Su Ming fell silent for a while before he spoke calmly. He respected Yi Wang as his opponent. Once he finished speaking, Su Ming turned away and his gaze fell upon Mo Sang sitting in the distance. He saw a smile on the elder's face and saw within his eyes the message that told him not to reveal his identity. Su Ming turned away. This time, he looked at Dark Dragon tribe and at Bai Ling, who was standing beside the old woman. He smiled faintly and walked towards Bai Ling with the anxiety stemmed from being the center of attention ever since he came back. Care to walk in circles with me tomorrow night? When Su Ming walked towards her, he ignored the dumbstruck old woman and the excited Si Kong, and looked into Bai Ling's eyes, winking as he whispered to her. Bai Ling was stunned. She did not know what to say, but the moment she heard the 3 words, walk in circles, saw Su Ming wink at her, and remembered those familiar eyes, she trembled slightly, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. She nodded her head. Chapter 71. The Elder's Preparation. Su Ming left. Once he left, the crowd in the field also gradually dispersed as the people went to the leaders of their tribes and went back to their lodgings in Windstream City. The first stage of the test was over. There would be a night of rest before the start of the next part of the test the next day. The second stage may not be a test of actual combat, but it held a lot of importance by showing the participants' power. In the past, there would be a lot of people who entered the first stage of the test and did not participate in the other 2 stages, but these people were mostly ranked below the top 50. There had never been someone who had managed to place in the top 10 ranks and bowed out of the other 2 tests. That was why Su Ming and Yi Wang's conversation caused a storm to rage within the hearts of the people in the field. However, they did not talk about it. They only watched silently as Su Ming left. The participants who were getting ready for the test next morning left especially quickly. They had to hurry up and use the night to train to make sure their bodies were in top condition while getting rid of the injuries they sustained due to the pressure from the mountain in the first stage. The injuries sustained by Chen Chong and the others were not light because they had forcefully moved forward during the first stage of the test. They would require help from the powerful berserkers from their tribes to be able to recover by next morning. Even Windstream Tribe's elder, Jing Nan, did not waste time loitering in the field. Yi Wang's forceful absorption of his berserker blood would have left behind a lot of problems. He would have to go and help him soothe his qi. When Su Ming came, it was Shihai who had brought him. It was the same when he left. Shihai seemed to be conflicted, and he hesitated as if about to say something, but he remained silent in the end. He swung his sleeve and brought Su Ming away from the place towards Windstream City in a whistle of wind. As the crowd gradually diminished, the field became more deserted. Mo Sang stood in the field with a smile as he spoke to Jing Nan, who was standing by his side, about something. Jing Nan's face was no longer gloomy. He was frowning instead. After a long moment of silence, he looked towards Mo Sang. The first request you had regarding giving me the ancient berserker art was to let Dark Mountain Tribe become a part of Windstream Tribe when you believed the time was right so as to receive Windstream's protection. Your purpose for doing that was definitely to give Black Mountain Tribes Baitu a chance. You will take away 3 of the strongest berserkers in Dark Mountain Tribe and greatly reduce the defense of your tribe. If Baitu comes to Windstream, then you will use the chance to observe his power. If he doesn't, then it means something unknown has happened to his training. This move of yours, where you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, is ruthless indeed. Jing Nan looked at Mo Sang and gritted out each word. I never intended to hide it from you, Mo Sang spoke, smiling. If Baitu had come, you could then have made changes according to your judgment. If he didn't, then you'd be leaving behind a weakened tribe to tempt him into attacking it. I can tell that you have a backup plan within the tribe. If Baitu was to really attack Dark Mountain Tribe, then due to my promise to you, Dark Mountain Tribe would become part of Windstream, which would make Baitu wary. Due to your understanding of Baitu, if he had just arrived at a breakthrough, then his powers would still be wild and hard to control. I would definitely need to lend a hand or else Windstream would lose all their esteem in the region since they couldn't even defend an affiliated tribe. It would make others think that I'm afraid of Baitu. Jing Nan slowly spoke about these things. In truth, when Mo Sang had mentioned that to him in the secret room, he had already thought about all this, but did not say it. He wanted to keep those thoughts to himself and think about it later so that he could make Mo Sang pay a greater price. Now, he found the price. Not bad. That's what I've been thinking. It's a pity Baitu didn't make a move. Mo Sang frowned slightly as he looked towards Jing Nan. Jing Nan's gaze was complicated as he looked into Mo Sang's eyes. After a long while, he sighed. If it weren't because that child looked so different from you, I'd truly think that he is of your blood. Jing Nan lifted his head and looked towards the direction Su Ming had disappeared. To me, he is of my blood. There was a hint of nostalgia in Mo Sang's eyes as he spoke softly. Mo Sang, in terms of intelligence, I cannot compare to you. This has nothing to do with our cultivation. I knew that since I was young. You knew since a long time ago that I would figure out the hidden meaning within your request, and you knew that with my personality, I would not immediately reject you, but would find the chance to reap even more benefits from you. All this, you have predicted. That was why you pushed this benefit right in front of my face so that I would have no choice but to be attracted to it. All of this was not just for your tribe but also for the child, perhaps even more for him. You knew since a long time ago how outstanding Su Ming is. Jing Nan spoke slowly. Mo Sang looked at Jing Nan with a smile. He did not speak. You made him hide his identity and use another appearance in this place to show off his potential so that I would see all of that. With this move, even if Dark Mountain Tribe becomes affiliated to Windstream Tribe, he would not be affected by this. You gave him another path, a path that you did not choose that year. Jing Nan's face became even more complicated as he looked at Mo Sang. You know that Windstream does not mind prodigies appearing in the tribes around the region. In fact, we even hoped that there would be other young prodigies appearing in other tribes. Because the moment they appear, we would receive them the moment we find them and make them part of Windstream. We would also give a lot of benefits to their original tribes. Many people don't understand why we do this, thinking that Windstream is jealous of those who have talent. Even if we explain ourselves, no one would believe us. Only you know the truth. You know the truth, and you asked him to disguise himself for his own good. After all, if he's too outstanding, then it would be far too easy for others to be jealous of him. Putting him under a layer of disguise is a form of protection for him. At the same time, he won't be burdened by the fate of being one of the members of an affiliated tribe. He can be independent. If he grows up and reveals his identity later, it would still be fine. At that time, he would already have the power to let others look up to him. He could also protect Dark Mountain Tribe by then, which would have already become an affiliated tribe. Jing Nan looked at the few people left on the field while speaking slowly. You made it. I like this child. Let him stay in Windstream. I'll offer him the same help as I gave Yi Wang, just like what I promised before. Between him and Yi Wang, whoever reaches the Transcendence Realm first will become the Berserker's son of Windstream. Even if he reaches the Transcendence Realm later than Yi Wang, with his potential, I will still make him as brilliant as the Blazing Sun. He will develop Windstream together with Yi Wang. As for Dark Mountain Tribe, once the test ends, come to Windstream. Baitu won't dare to stop you. If he makes a move, I will let him know the difference between us, even though we are both in the initial stages of the Transcendence Realm. As Jing Nan spoke, he raised his right hand towards Mo Sang and waved it. In an instant, a small bottle sped towards Mo Sang. There are 3 drops of Berserker blood in there. Treat the extra drop as a present for Su Ming. Jing Nan looked at Mo Sang deeply and turned away, taking a step towards the air. He had to help soothe Yi Wang's chi tonight. Mo Sang watched Jing Nan leave, then looked at the small bottle containing the 3 drops of Berserker blood. His eyes were filled with contemplation. Jing Nan was right in many regards, but there was one thing he was wrong about. Mo Sang did not expect that Su Ming would be able to obtain such a rank. His original plan had been to use Su Ming's mysterious identity to make Jing Nan suspicious. Then he would pay up an incredibly great price for Jing Nan to agree to let Su Ming stay in Windstream. After all, he understood that Windstream Tribe was incredibly determined towards getting out of this place and becoming stronger. It would not give up any chance to do so, even if it was just a guess. But Mo Sang did not expect Su Ming to be able to obtain this rank. With things this way, the tables for his negotiation with Jing Nan had immediately turned and now Mo Sang held the reins instead of being forced to go with the tide. It was just a small change, yet the difference in the end results was so great. Perhaps this time, the catastrophe looming over Dark Mountain Tribe can actually be solved. A bright flash flickered in Mo Sang's eyes, and he went towards the people from Dark Mountain Tribe waiting for him in the distance. In the air outside of the vicinity of Windstream Mountain, Shihai was speeding away with Su Ming back to the Mudstone City. They did not say one word to each other while they were in the air. Su Ming was just quiet, but Shihai was feeling conflicted. He would occasionally look at Su Ming. The person before him looked incredibly normal, and Shihai had been the one who bring him to the field. Back then, he'd not taken much notice of this person. Yet now, after he had seen Su Ming's unbelievable raise as he climbed up the stairs during the previous few days, Shihai's attitude was forced to change. This is a prodigy that can compete with Yi Wang. Shihai marveled in his heart. Before long, the contours of Wind Stream Tribe gradually appeared on the land far into the distance. As the giant mudstone city gradually appeared before their eyes, Su Ming suddenly spoke. He spoke as the gust was blowing fiercely against his face. His voice seemed to be about ready to be scattered away into the wind, but each word and syllable still reached Shihai's ears clearly. Senior, I have something I don't understand. You have yet to awaken. How is it that you're able to fly in the sky? If it was before, Shihai would have definitely ignored him, as if he had not heard him. Yet now, after a moment of hesitation, he opened his mouth and began his explanation slowly. The flight after reaching awakening is different from mine. The reason I can fly is due to my berserker vessel. A part of it is also because of my berserker mark, which has yet to solidify. My berserker mark is of the clouds. As Shihai spoke, a faint picture of a cloud appeared in the center of his brows. To be exact, a berserker who has reached the awakening realm can walk in the air with his own power. As for me, I can only float. It may seem the same, but the basic principle behind it is very different, Shihai explained in detail. Su Ming's eyes were contemplative. He asked a few more questions. As they continued talking, they returned to the Mudstone City. When Shihai let Su Ming on the ground, there was a smile on his face. He nodded his head towards Su Ming, then left after turning into a cloud. The gigantic field at the foot of Wind Stream Mountain was now deserted. The only living beings there were the 8 people sitting on top of 8 of the 9 eagle statues. They were powerful berserkers from Wind Stream Tribe. Before long, Shihai returned and sat down cross-legged on the 9th eagle statue. Since the seal on Wind Stream Mountain was broken, some time would be required to seal it again. The 9 of them protected this place until the seal was complete, and they could leave. That had been the case since before. Yet this year, there was something unusual. In the deserted field, a person in black had appeared some time ago. That person was wearing a black robe that hid his entire body. It was the mysterious man who had appeared at Black Mountain Tribe. Chapter 72. The Alliance of the Western Region. He stood there, but for some reason, Shihai and the other 8 people did not notice him. They didn't know when the mysterious man had appeared, nor did they know of his existence. Even if they had opened their eyes, they would have only seen an empty space before them. The Great Bird, one of the 4 great mythical creatures of the Fire Berserker tribe, they were killed that year by the god of berserkers. I didn't expect that there would be a fragment of its soul here. If the elder from Black Mountain Tribe hadn't told me, I would have missed it. Oh well. He might have told me this because of personal reasons, but since I saw the beast, then I'll definitely satisfy his request. There are just 2 people who have reached the initial stage of the awakening realm. They're not enough for me to spare any of my attention here yet. I've heard about Wind Stream Tribe, located at the edges of the Western Region's alliance borders. I heard that they were once a weak branch from the great tribe of Meow Man. The mysterious man mumbled and moved forward step by step towards Wind Stream Mountain, which was in a state of being sealed off once again. Su Ming returned to the lodgings of Dark Mountain Tribe within Wind Stream City. His face had long since returned to normal, and he looked like the frail, clean, and handsome youth once more. He wore a simple beast skin shirt and sat down within the lodgings of Dark Mountain Tribe. There was excitement and anxiety within his eyes. All that had happened during the first stage of the test was like a dream to him. It was as if the person who did it was not him, but someone else. It was especially so when he had returned to the field and become the center of attention. It made his heart pound even more quickly. When he remembered talking to Bai Ling right before Si Kong and the old woman, Su Ming felt proud of himself. He took in a deep breath and finally managed to quell the excitement within his heart. He closed his eyes and felt the vast amount of qi in his body. The power that erupted from all 160 blood veins filled Su Ming with confidence. His blood veins had increased during the final moment by 4. They had increased from 156 to 160. I'm now at the 6th level of the blood solidification realm. There's not much of a difference between this and the required 245 blood veins for the 7th level of the blood solidification realm, Su Ming mumbled, and there was a strange glow in his eyes. I can start training dark blood dust. I'll have to wait a bit longer for the powerful execution of the 3 evils, though. Su Ming sat down with a focused gaze as he recalled everything that had happened during the first stage of the test. A smile gradually appeared on the corner of his lips. More importantly, I've mastered fine control. If my mind moves, my chi will move. If my mind doesn't move, then my chi will be hidden. With this, I won't waste a single shred of chi. When my battle power increases, my speed will also increase to another level. Su Ming took in a deep breath as his spirits were lifted up. With the blood scales, the me now should be able to somehow help the elder protect the tribe and my tribe members. I can fight for the tribe. He clenched his fists with a resolute gaze. It's a pity my powers aren't great enough right now. I only have 160 blood veins. If I could increase them further, that would be great. Su Ming frowned. After a moment of silence, a bright light flashed in his eyes. I have to buy a large amount of herbs and create more mountain spirit, but, Su Ming's eyes darkened. His pockets were empty. He did not have any money to buy anything. Right now, the tribe is faced with a great danger. It would need a lot of stone coins. I can't add more stress for the elder. I have to think. How can I get a huge amount of money? He scratched his head. While he was thinking, his ears twitched. He heard Wu La's excited voice coming from outside the house. Su Ming stood up and opened the front door. From there, he saw Bei Ling, Wu La, Lei Chen, and behind them, the elder, the head of the guards, and Shan Hen walking back. Mo Su has a really great presence. You saw it, right? The moment he came back, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. Even Yi Wang spoke to him. I heard from the others that this is something that is incredibly rare. Wu La's face was lit with excitement. Her eyes were bright with enthusiasm as she walked and continued speaking to Bei Ling and Lei Chen. Mo Su may look average, but he attracts a lot of attention. I think that powerful people are all supposed to be like this. He reached the top from the last place. When he came back, he was really calm. The presence of a powerful person was incredibly strong on him. I can still remember the words he spoke to Yi Wang. He said, I won't enter the second stage of the test. It made so many people shocked. Wu La gestured excitedly. It was clear that Mo Su held a great position within her heart, and she practically worshipped him. Su Ming stood outside the house and looked at the crowd coming back. He watched Wu La's excitement and touched his nose. He remembered being very nervous. He found it hard to adapt to the feeling of being the center of attention. He absolutely did not have the calmness Wu La was talking about. Mo Su had been unknown, but now, he's famous. His name has already traveled to the entire Windstream tribe. Before long, all the tribes around the region will know his name. Bei Ling's face was no longer aloof but was filled with exhilaration and excitement, which was a rare sight. It's a pity he doesn't belong to Dark Mountain tribe. It'd be great if there was such a prodigy in Dark Mountain tribe, Bei Ling sighed. There was no hint of jealousy within him. That was the nature of human beings. They would only compete with those who were around their level. They would find it hard to be jealous of those who had surpassed them by too much. Unless, they were people who they grew up with, and thus, had no sense of mysteriousness, because both parties knew each other too well. They would still be jealous of those people, then. That's right. If only he was from Dark Mountain tribe, Mo Su, Mo Sang, their names match so well. Mo Su. There was a look of awe in Wu La's eyes, and her face was flushed. As she continued mumbling, she saw Su Ming standing at the house and frowned. Disdain appeared on her face. She remembered what Lei Chen had said. He had actually suspected that the Mo Su she admired was Su Ming. It only made her think that it was a form of humiliation towards Mo Su. Lei Chen did not speak. When he saw Su Ming, he trained his eyes on him. After a few moments of scrutiny, his eyes darkened. It was clear that he did not believe that Su Ming and Mo Su had any form of connection either. As for Bei Ling, He had seen Su Ming standing there a long time ago, but he had immediately ignored Su Ming's existence. The aloofness in his eyes was so thick, it seemed that it would not go away. Mo Su is incredibly mysterious. Up till now, we still don't know which tribe he belongs to. Maybe we'll know in a few more days. When that time comes, I'll represent Dark Mountain Tribe and get to know him. Bei Ling no longer looked at Su Ming. When he spoke of Mo Su, there was respect in his eyes. You have to get to know him. Mo Su, I think his powers have to be really great. It's a pity he's not joining the second or the third stage of the test. Su Ming saw Wu Lao's excitement and could not help but touch his nose again. Maybe his powers aren't really that great. That's why he's not taking part. Su Ming could no longer keep it in and mumbled instinctively. Su Ming, what did you say? When Wu La heard it, a fierce look immediately appeared in her eyes. She looked at Su Ming furiously. You have no right to talk about Mo Su. His powers must be really great. He must have something else to do, or because he has no interest in competing, that's why he's not taking part in the test. Su Ming smiled bitterly and quickly kept his silence. When he saw how furious Wu La looked, he had no idea whether he should happy or feel helpless. Su Ming, you can say all that here, saying this most likely because you heard from somewhere else about Mo Su. But I'm warning you, once you leave the lodgings, you are not allowed to say anything of the kind. This will only bring trouble to the tribe. That Mo Su is not someone who we can talk about this way. Bei Ling spoke slowly while staring at Su Ming with a serious face. He was the strongest among the youths in Dark Mountain Tribe. It was not out of bounds for him to say that. Su Ming, I don't think you should say that either. That Mo Su, you didn't see him with your own eyes. He's just too strong, so strong that even Yi Wang had to pay attention to him. That person is not someone we can discuss. He's really strong. Lei Chen whispered, too. Once he finished speaking, he hesitated for a moment and looked at Su Ming with a complicated look. It was as if he wanted to say something else, but could not continue. Su Ming smiled bitterly again. All right, you three have another test tomorrow. Go back to your rooms to recover. The head of the guards frowned and spoke with a stern voice. Bei Ling and the other two immediately kept quiet and went back to their rooms. Mo Sang nodded towards Su Ming. The praise in his eyes was incredibly strong. He did not say anything but went back to his room. The head of the guards and Shan Hen followed close behind him. It was clear that they were going to discuss something. When they went away, Su Ming returned to his room. He knew that there was a high possibility of the elder coming over later. That was why he chose to sit here and wait quietly. He waited for a long while, but the elder did not come. Lei Chen hesitantly came instead. He went into Su Ming's room and sat in front of him, looking at him with a dumbfounded expression. What is it? Su Ming looked at the stupidly honest expression on Lei Chen's face and smiled. No, it's nothing. Su Ming, do you? Lei Chen hesitated, gritted his teeth, then whispered, do you like Bai Ling? Su Ming was thrown off guard. Ah, Su Ming, it doesn't matter whether you like her. This is a friendly advice, give up. I'm wondering though, is Bai Ling really that beautiful? She's not as pretty as Bai Fang, Lei Chen mumbled, and there was a questioning look on his face. Su Ming, you didn't go to the field at the foot of Windstream Mountain. You didn't see how Mo Su went to Bai Ling and spoke about walking in circles before everyone's eyes right at the end. Circles, my ass, I don't like him. Lei Chen quickly stole a look at Su Ming's expression and spoke just as quickly. Worse still, that Bai Ling agreed to it while blushing. Ah, you didn't see that scene. It's clear that she likes Mo Su. That Bai Ling is disappointing. Lei Chen spoke once again. There was an odd expression on Su Ming's face. He hesitated for a moment before opening his mouth and whispering, Lei Chen, let me tell you a secret, I'm actually Mo Su. Lei Chen was stunned. Then he lifted his hand to touch Su Ming's forehead, which Su Ming dodged. Lei Chen quickly advised him against it and was just about to say something again when they heard the elder letting out a cough outside the room. Lei Chen quickly stood up. The door to the room was opened, and the elder smiled as he entered. Without even needing a word from the elder, Lei Chen quickly left. He stole a look at Su Ming, then left the room. There was still worry on his face, however. Su Ming's words just now had given him a shock. He thought Su Ming was too upset, that was why he said those words. Translator's note: Miao Man is an aboriginal tribe in China, which was once a great tribe. Chapter 73. The Berserkers, Realm Mountain. When Lei Chen left, there was only the elder and Su Ming left in the room. When he saw the elder entering the room, Su Ming quickly stood up. He was feeling very nervous. He did not know whether his actions during the first stage of the test were right in the elder's eyes. While he was feeling nervous, a smile appeared on the elder's face. He sat in front of Su Ming and looked at the frail-looking youth before him. There was a hint of nostalgia within his eyes as he looked at the traces of youthfulness still left on that clean and handsome face. "You've grown up. Come, sit by my side," the elder said softly after a long while. "Elder." Su Ming sat down. The wrinkles on the elder's face seemed to have increased. The traces left behind by time seemed to reveal a person that had experienced a lot in life. "You did well during the first stage of the test." The elder patted Su Ming's head before he took out a small bottle and handed it to Su Ming. "There are 3 drops of berserker blood belonging to a berserker of the Transcendence realm in the bottle. Keep it close to you. When the time is right, it will be of great help to you." "That is about as much as I can help." The elder looked at Su Ming, and there was a look in his eyes that Su Ming could not understand due to his young age. "The method to absorb the berserker blood of the transcended realm is easy. Cast the dark blood dust and change the berserker blood into blood mist, surrounding your body while you slowly absorb it. Use it to nurture your blood veins. You can only absorb 1 drop each time, however, don't be greedy. You have to do this slowly, or else you'll harm your own body," the elder warned him seriously. Su Ming looked at the elder. He did not know why, but he had a hunch that something he would not like was about to happen. The look on the elder's face and his words only made him further not understand the meaning behind the elder's words. "Elder, you," Su Ming took the bottle the berserker blood instinctively. Just as he was about to say something, he saw the elder smiling and shaking his head. He looked at Su Ming kindly. "Don't worry, it's not impossible to solve the danger the tribe faces. I've already spoke with the elder from Windstream tribe. There shouldn't be anything going wrong at this point. What you need to do now is to train properly. If the day comes and you reach Transcendence Realm, if you can leave this place and go explore the world outside, you have to remember to go to Berserkers, Realm Mountain," the elder said slowly. "What is Berserkers Realm Mountain?" Su Ming was stunned. He had a feeling that this was connected to his birth. Yet when the elder suddenly spoke of it, the bad feeling in his heart grew stronger until it turned into a wave of uneasiness and anxiety so strong it replaced the shock and uncertainty that he should be feeling. "It's in your heart," the elder said, looking at Su Ming. He was stunned for a moment, and there was a questioning look on his face. "All right, just remember that. Let's not talk about this anymore. I've already spoken with the elder of Windstream tribe. You'll be staying in Windstream tribe as Mosu from now on. The elder of Windstream tribe will be helping and guiding you together with Yi Wang. This will be a great help to you, and his help will far exceed the amount of help I can give you. The chances of you transcending will also increase." The elder's face was serious as he looked at Su Ming. When he saw hesitation on Su Ming's face and that he was about to speak, he became stern. "But, elder, I don't want to stay in Windstream tribe." The elder's words were too sudden, causing Su Ming to be completely unprepared for it. He did not expect it. If he knew from the start that such a change would happen due to the results of the first stage of the test, then he would have definitely not gotten such a high ranking. Yet before he could even finish speaking in his alarm, the elder's eyes became fierce. "Su Ming, I've already decided on this. You must stay here from now on." The elder spoke sternly. Su Ming fell silent, but the unyielding look in his eyes was clear. When he saw the stubborn look in Su Ming's eyes, the elder sighed and his expression softened. He looked at Su Ming and spoke slowly. "Su Ming, Dark Mountain Tribe is not far from Windstream. You can come back anytime you want." Su Ming bit into his lip. He did not know what to say. "Besides, I've already decided. Dark Mountain Tribe will join Windstream Tribe and leave Dark Mountain. We will build a new tribe outside the Mudstone City." Truth be told, you'll be really close to the tribe, the elder continued saying. But elder, I don't want to become part of Windstream tribe, I'm a member of Dark Mountain tribe. Su Ming said in a low voice after hesitating for a moment. The elder looked quietly at Su Ming. After a long while, he spoke again. Su Ming, besides doing it for your own good, I'm asking you to join Windstream tribe for another reason. Your status will rise just as your powers will rise. Once you're at the same level as Yi Wang, then you can protect Dark Mountain tribe from your side. Don't you want to take care of Dark Mountain tribe? Su Ming was stunned. How about this? This isn't a matter of urgency. You don't have to think too much about it. Once all this ends and Dark Mountain tribe migrates here, you can make your decision. When that time comes, I'll send you here. You don't even have to stay in the city, you can continue staying in Dark Mountain tribe. How does that sound? The elder smiled and ruffled Su Ming's hair. Su Ming let out a sigh of relief. After a moment of thought, he nodded his head obediently. If that was the case, he could accept it. Within Su Ming's heart, he only belonged to one tribe, and that was Dark Mountain tribe. All right, since you're not taking part in the next 2 tests, stay in Windstream tribe for the next few days and get yourself familiar with the place. Once Bei Ling and the others are done with the tests, we'll be returning to the tribe. The elder smiled and stood up. He did not ask how Su Ming managed to obtain his rank, neither did he ask Su Ming to explain his understanding towards the 6 numbers. He only smiled and looked deeply at Su Ming before he turned and left. Su Ming looked at the elder's back as he left. It was burdened by his experiences in life, and as Su Ming watched, his heart twisted for an unknown reason. Right up till the moment the elder left and Su Ming was the only one left in the room, he sat in his spot quietly and thought of each and every one of the elder's words. Worry gnawed at his heart. I don't have enough power, I have to become stronger. After a long while, Su Ming clenched his teeth tightly. He might not fully understand the look in the elder's eyes, but he could tell that things were not as the elder said. The danger looming over the tribe might not be as easily resolved as he said. I won't be able to perform any more burning of blood within this short period of time. If I want to become stronger, then I can only create more pills, then I'll need a lot of stone coins. Su Ming frowned. What he lacked right now was money. What should I do? I've already sold scattering dust once. I wonder if it attracted any attention, but if I don't sell it again, then I won't get any money, but if someone had already caught wind of this, then I can't sell the pills again. Su Ming was cracking his head for all possible methods, but he could not find a solution. Looks like I'll have to ask the elder for some stone coins. Su Ming sighed. He absolutely did not want to add to the elder's burdens. According to his plans, he would require a large amount of stone coins this time. Su Ming stood up straight and was just about to find the elder when he stopped as a thought appeared in his head. He stood by the door with bright eyes while the thought became increasingly clearer in his head. After a while, Su Ming decided to sit down and think. He then took out a bottle from his bosom. There were traces of light surrounding it. Within the bottle was the green blood he had snatched from Wu Sen some time ago. He had enveloped it in moonlight so that its presence could be hidden. Right now, he took out the bottle, and his eyes became increasingly brighter. He had been working on that thought in his head multiple times and gradually an idea formed. This thing must be incredibly important to Wu Sen. And, I heard Bei Ling mention that Wu Sen was on par with Chen Chong in Windstream tribe, and they're only slightly below Yi Wang. This person has always ranked within the top 3 in the previous tests, but this time, he was only in the 12th place. Even if it was due to Bai Su's appearance that he fell out of the top 3, he should not have dropped out of the top 10. As for this change, there can only be one explanation. He has become weaker. Only when his body has weakened and problems arose for him, would he have shown such a poor performance. There would definitely be no need for him to hide his power during the test. There is no need for him to do so with his status. Su Ming mumbled in his head as he analyzed the situation. If that's the case, then there's at least half a chance that his performance is due to him losing this thing. Su Ming's eyes flashed. He looked at the bottle in his hands and a smile appeared on his lips. Wu Sen is a prodigy within Windstream tribe. Then surely, he must be pretty rich. The smile on Su Ming's lips grew wider and brighter. But just what is this? Why is it so important to him? Su Ming fell silent for a moment. He did not act immediately, but chose to sit down cross-legged and quietly adjusted his breathing to recover his qi. When the moon hung high in the sky, Su Ming opened his eyes abruptly. Now I can examine this. Su Ming no longer hesitated. He took the small bottle and waved his left hand above it. The moonlight on top of the bottle immediately scattered away. Su Ming brought the bottle closer and took off the cork before looking at it carefully. The green blood within the bottle seemed a bit dull. It was as if because it had been away from Wu Sen's body for a long time, it had lost its color and spirit. I have to see whether this thing is useful to me. If it isn't, only then will I be able to move to the next step. Su Ming did not hesitate, pouring out the liquid from the bottle. The fresh blood floated before him. There was no stench of blood coming from it, as if it was not blood. Su Ming stared at it, then grabbed the blood and placed it in the center between his brows. Chapter 74. Is it him? The moment the green blood touched the center of his brows, Su Ming immediately felt a strong presence. That presence was filled with death. It was as if there was a countless number of moaning voices echoing in his head. At that moment, the green blood seemed to have been revitalized and wanted to struggle out of Su Ming's hands before rushing into the center of his brows, then entering his body. Su Ming narrowed his eyes in concentration. The qi in his body circulated and immediately dissipated the presence of death from the blood while also blocking the green blood that was trying to enter his body. He held the ball of blood in his right hand and lifted it away from his brows. The moment it left, a look of surprise appeared in Su Ming's eyes. This thing should have been made with a special berserker art. It's incredibly important to the practitioner, but to those who don't practice it, it would only cause them harm. Su Ming was silent, sinking into his thoughts and making his decision. With the analysis he made by tying up Wu Sen's weakened state to the loss of this blood, his certainty towards his theory rose up by another 30% from its initial 50%. He may not be completely certain still, but 80% was enough. In truth, his guess was correct. If others had forcefully absorbed the blood of corpses, then it would cause them internal injuries. Even if there would be benefits obtained from it, after comparing the pros and cons, there would be more losses compared to gains. Su Ming placed the blood back into the bottle and waved his right hand towards the bottle. Immediately, a ray of moonlight appeared and turned into strings that surrounded the bottle. He placed the bottle into his bosom and stood up before leaving the room. The moon in the sky was not in a crescent shape. It was slightly rounder. By the looks of it, within a few days, the moon would be full. Su Ming took in a deep breath. He played out the idea in his head once again, and his eyes flashed briefly. He walked out of the house in the middle of the night. It was quiet in the area, and there was absolutely no sound around him. The moment he walked out of Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings in Windstream City, Su Ming's heart jolted. At that moment, a cold voice came from behind him. It's late. Where are you going? Su Ming stopped. He turned around and saw a man walking out from the dark part of the big door. He looked average, but there was a cold glint in his narrowed eyes. He was Dark Mountain Tribe's Xianxia. Greetings, Chief of the Hunters. Su Ming's face was passive and unmoving as he watched Xianxia walking towards him. I asked you a question. Xianxia moved towards him slowly and stood 10 feet away from Su Ming, looking coldly at him. I heard from Bei Ling that Windstream City is lively at night. That's why I wanted to go take a look. Su Ming was on guard, but there was fear on his face. He spoke quickly. Xianxia looked at Su Ming for a long while before he nodded his head slowly. It's not too safe during the night. Don't cause any trouble and come back soon, Xianxia said slowly. He was the chief of the hunters in the tribe. He was also a powerful berserker who chose to follow the elder during this journey. Protecting the members of the tribe was his responsibility. For him, saying those words was normal. Su Ming agreed to it. After bowing to Xianxia, he slowly walked backwards before turning around and walking into the distance. He could feel that Xianxia was still watching his back. He only took a few more steps forward when all the hair on his body rose suddenly. He could feel a strong pressure pressing on him. The feeling turned into a sense of danger that screamed at him that someone was targeting him. The qi in his body seemed to be on the verge of losing control and was about to circulate on its own to resist against the pressure. Su Ming knew that it was a reflex that belonged to berserkers. Due to the qi within their bodies, if they were suddenly met with an attack, then it would be very difficult for them to hide their qi because they would automatically resist against it. If it was a normal tribe member, then the pressure they felt would not be so strong. Only berserkers would feel the pressure clearly. This was a way to test whether the people around them were hiding their powers. Yet this was a technique that was only useful if it was used by berserkers in the high level of the blood solidification realm against those who had lower levels compared to them. Xianxia's strength was far greater than Su Ming's. If this sudden act had been used on Su Ming before he went through the test, then he would not have been able to resist it. Yet it would still not bring about too much attention, because the elder had cast an art on him to disguise his qi. Even if the qi in his body was forcefully activated, no one would be able to notice it. However, as of then, Su Ming could already control the qi in his entire body through fine control by keeping his mind still. He did not hesitate. The moment the qi in his body was about to be activated, with a single thought, Su Ming calmly dissipated the activation of his qi. This was something that would be difficult for other people to do, but for Su Ming, who had already understood the method of entering fine control by using his mind, it was not hard. However, while qi could be hidden and kept still, the body's instinctive movements when a person was faced with sudden danger would usually be the part where other people chose to observe. Xianxia was looking for that. Nevertheless, he underestimated Su Ming. More accurately speaking, he had never paid too much attention towards Su Ming, hence he did not understand Su Ming. The moment the sense of danger arrived, Su Ming did not stop. It was as if he was completely unaware of it and continued walking forward at an unhurried pace until he gradually disappeared into the night. When Su Ming left the place, a frown gradually appeared on Xianxia's face. Nonetheless, he did not continue standing there. He turned around instead and went back into the tribe's lodgings. His actions were not out of bounds. Even if he did it before the elder, no one would think otherwise. In fact, since he did it so straightforwardly, other people would just think that he suspected Su Ming and was just testing him. Su Ming kept to a calm pace until he was far away from the lodgings. Then, he could no longer resist sprinting a few steps with his heart pounding rapidly against his chest. During that instant, from the feeling he got from how Xianxia scrutinized him, Su Ming found his hidden, mysterious observer of the past few days that he felt during meditation. It's him. Su Ming frowned. He remembered the elder mentioning a traitor within the tribe. Even if the elder did not go into detail about it, Su Ming could tell the worrying aspects about it. Is it him? Su Ming was in doubt. The status of the chief of the hunters was very high, and he held great authority within the tribe. He had control over all the berserkers within the hunting team. He also had the important duty of leading the hunting teams to hunt for food. Throughout the years, Xianxia had contributed a lot for the tribe in Su Ming's memories. He may seem like an indifferent man, but in truth, there were times where Su Ming saw him walking coldly in the tribe while offering his game to the elderly members of the tribe. He had also gone up the mountain and brought back a huge amount of beast fangs because children in the tribe loved them. Even when he distributed it to the Lassus with his usual aloof look, Su Ming could tell that there was a hint of kindness within him when he did so. In fact, Su Ming could recall from his memories that during one particular winter, some hunters in a hunting team had been ambushed by the people from Black Mountain tribe and escaped while heavily injured. One of them had even died. Xianxia's face had been ice cold as he went out of the tribe alone. When he returned the next day, he held 3 heads that belonged to the berserkers from Black Mountain tribe in his hand. This would have incited war with Black Mountain tribe if it were not for the elder's incredible power during that year. The scenes from the past appeared one by one in Su Ming's head. He could not find a single reason for Xianxia to turn traitor. To him, it was impossible that this sort of chief of the hunters would betray the tribe. Maybe, I'm just thinking too much. Su Ming continued to think in silence, then sighed in relief before quietly walking forward. Gradually, his face changed, and his body became stronger. His clothes too, changed. Very soon, when he came out of the darkness, Su Ming had turned into the incredibly mysterious Mo Su, whose name now rang through all the corners of Windstream City. Su Ming blasted forth into the deeper parts of Windstream City with shocking speed. Wu Sen's house was very easy to find. Once Su Ming turned into Mo Su, he would know where Wu Sen stayed once he asked around. Besides, even if he was well known in Windstream Tribe, only a few hundred people had seen his face, hence he did not attract too much attention. The Windstream Tribe member who had told Su Ming where Wu Sen stayed also did not know that the person before him was the Mo Su, who had been unassuming until he shocked everyone. As for why he would tell Su Ming where Wu Sen stayed, it was because Su Ming had brought out one of the very few stone coins left in his possession. Besides, the members of Windstream Tribe were used to it during these last days. He knew that there were a lot of outsiders who had been fighting against each other to meet the prodigies within Windstream. Yet while the number of people who wanted to see them was great, the ones who were summoned were few. Wu Sen stayed in a house located at the eastern corner of the Mudstone City. It was very quiet there, and it was especially so during the night. Night turned the entire place dark. There may be lamps around, but they were few in number and were scattered around. Su Ming could only see the outlines of the houses with the help of the moonlight. Among the many mudstone houses was a house that took up a lot of space. It was also isolated as it stood out from among its surroundings. That was Wu Sen's house. As one of the prodigies in Windstream Tribe, Wu Sen's status was very high. His dwelling place would also naturally be different. There were 4 houses in his courtyard, which let out an eerie feeling in the silence of the night. The courtyard was very big but also deserted. It looked desolate and deathly still under the moonlight. The 4 houses were dark, as if there was no one within them. In the past, it was not so. Wu Sen's followers would usually guard this place at all times to show just how unique and special he was. Now, there was no one in them. There was no way of telling whether those people had left because Wu Sen's rank fell, or because he did not want others to find out that he had weakened and chased them all out. Su Ming stood hundreds of feet away from the courtyard. He remained silent, his shadow lengthened by the moonlight until it seemed to fuse together with the darkness around him. He looked at the courtyard before him. After a while, he slowly walked forward until he was near the door to the courtyard. Without any hesitation, he pushed it open. The moment the wooden door swung open, it made a creaking sound in the silence that spread around him. The 4 houses in the courtyard were still silent, as if no one had noticed him. It felt like no one was here. Nonetheless, when Su Ming stood outside, he felt a presence of qi from the second house. From the strength of the qi, Su Ming could tell that the person was around the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. It may have been slightly weaker than what he had sensed when he'd returned and cast a glance at Wu Sen, but once he thought about it, Wu Sen's weakening might be continuous. This then would be understandable. Chapter 75, Ill-Gotten Wealth. He stood at the deserted courtyard and looked at the closed door of the second house. He moved towards it step by step without any hesitation. When he was just outside the house, he pushed open the door. The moment the door was open, Su Ming heard a muffled growl, followed quickly by 2 green arms with an air of slaughter and death rushing towards him abruptly. A light flickered through Su Ming's eyes. His face was blank. He had already dared to destroy whatever Wu Sen sent his way when his power had been weaker than his. Adding to the fact that it was night now and his strength was much greater than Wu Sen's, who was constantly weakening at that, there was no reason for Su Ming to be afraid. The moment the green figure charged towards him, he lifted his right foot and stomped on the ground. The 160 blood veins manifested explosively on his body, creating an incredible force. He did not retreat even 1 step. With just the formidable force coming from him, he faced the green figure launching towards him. The green figure flinched due to the force coming from Su Ming's qi and broke down abruptly, turning into green bits of glittering light that scattered around the room, causing the originally dark room to be cast in green light. Wu Sen was a mess. His face was pale as he sat down cross-legged in the house. He glared at Su Ming, a trickle of blood running down the corner of his mouth. It was clear that the moment Su Ming came in, he forcefully cast a berserker art, but it could not even touch Su Ming. Instead, as the berserker art was dispelled, Wu Sen was injured. Mo Su. Wu Sen's eyes were filled with vexation and madness as he growled. Su Ming's face was calm, not at all affected by Wu Sen's insanity. He lifted his foot and walked into the house. He stood a few dozens of feet away from Wu Sen and looked at him coldly. Looks like you've truly become weaker. Even those followers of yours who have been offering you the blood from the center of their brows are gone without a trace, Su Ming said, opening his mouth slowly and speaking unhurriedly. Veins popped on Wu Sen's face, but there was also bitterness. He had heard the sound of the courtyard door opening and felt shocked and fearful. He had only heard the sound, but could not feel any traces of qi. It was as if the door to the courtyard opened by itself. Nonetheless, he had felt a sense of danger. It was especially so when the door to his house was pushed open. At that moment, that sense of danger reached its peak. He casted the berserker art without a care for consequences. Yet it failed. When he was just about to dash out of the house, he saw the face of the person standing outside his house. Once he saw him, Wu Sen gave up on charging out, because the person who came was Mo Su. It was the Mo Su who he highly suspected, but did not dare to offend. He was tied to Yi Wang, and Wu Sen saw with his own eyes what it meant to be a person who could shock the world. This sort of prodigy could only make Wu Sen feel bitter. Nevertheless, Wu Sen was not dumb. He was incredibly smart. In fact, he had a hunch as to why this person came, but he could not find it within himself to believe it. You stole my blood of corpses, causing me to continue weakening as time passes. With my status and how I've oppressed them in the past, once they know that I've become weaker, it won't be good for me. Wu Sen closed his eyes and took in a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, the veins on his face had already faded away, and his expression was back to normal. When Su Ming saw how quickly Wu Sen returned to his usual state and the traces of his anger and dissatisfaction could no longer be found, and that he had also chosen not to hide the fact that he was weakening, Su Ming grew to admire him a little. I have offended you previously. I hope you don't mind. While speaking, Wu Sen stood up and bowed towards Su Ming. Su Ming's face was schooled to a blank look, but his impression of Wu Sen improved even more. He looked at Wu Sen just as Wu Sen met his gaze squarely. They both stared at each other for a long while before Su Ming laughed suddenly. It's indeed much easier negotiating with smart people. Name a price. Wu Sen forcefully quelled his excitement. He no longer harbored any thoughts of fighting against this person. In his mind, he no longer had the right to do so. He was not as powerful as Mo Su, neither was his fame as great as his. According to his own analysis, this person might very soon be received by the elder and would accept guidance within Windstream tribe. He did not wish to become enemies with this sort of person. His only hope was to retrieve his blood of corpses and recover his power as quickly as possible. After all, once morning arrived, the second test would start, and that stage was incredibly important to him. What do you want of me? I only have one berserker vessel, and it is one that matches with my berserker art. The elder gave it to me, so I cannot exchange it with you, Wu Sen spoke up after hesitating for a while. The blood of corpses was much more important than the berserker vessel to him. Even so, he did not dare exchange the vessel for his blood. After all berserker vessels belonged to the tribe and were not owned by anyone. I don't want any berserker vessel. Let's use stone coins to exchange it. 5,000 coins and it's yours. As Su Ming spoke, he took out a small bottle from his bosom. The threads of moonlight surrounding the bottle disappeared the moment his hand touched the bottle, though no one noticed it. Wu Sen's heart pounded against his chest when he saw the small bottle. Yet the moment he heard Su Ming's words, he could only smile bitterly. Brother Mo, I only have 3,000 something. Su Ming did not speak. He only looked at Wu Sen quietly. After a while, he put the bottle back into his bosom silently and said, if that's the case, then once you have enough stone coins, come find me. Anxiety immediately appeared on Wu Sen's face. If he could get the blood of corpses tonight, then he would have hoped to win tomorrow. Yet if he could not get it back today, then when he entered the second stage of the test tomorrow, his results would pummel to the ground. Besides, he had no idea how he could even look for the mysterious Mo Su. If he left now, then even if he gathered enough stone coins, it would be difficult for him to regain his blood of corpses. Wait, Brother Mo, how about this? Please wait here for a while. I'll go and gather some stone coins now. It'll take at most 2 hours, and then I'll return. Can you, can you wait for me for 2 hours? Wu Sen immediately said. Su Ming frowned. He cast a glance at Wu Sen and no longer paid any attention to him. He turned around, intending to leave. There was no way he would wait here like an idiot. It did not matter whether Wu Sen would start plotting against him or not, Su Ming would still remain vigilant. Brother Mo, wait, I really only have 3,300 stone coins. How about this? I'll add this together to trade with you. What do you think? Wu Sen panicked. He took a few steps forward, then seemingly gritted his teeth and took out a wooden box from a corner of the house. Right before Su Ming's eyes, and with great reluctance, Wu Sen opened the box. There was a purple 7-leafed herb lying within. The herb was very peculiar. Each leaf was divided another 7 times. The order of the leaves made it look slightly messy at first glance. This 7 hearts is incredibly rare. I found it by accident. This thing cost several thousand stone coins. Wu Sen looked at Su Ming and quickly handed him the herb. The moment Su Ming looked at the herb, his heart immediately raced. He took it into his hands and looked at it carefully before confirming the identity of the herb. This was one of the 2 herbs he had not seen before that were required to create South Asunder. Su Ming closed the lid on the wooden box without batting an eyelid. He looked at Wu Sen with a face as if he was hesitating. Wu Sen felt incredibly nervous. After a while, when he saw Su Ming nod his head, the exhilaration on his face could not be hidden. He immediately took out white stone coins that were worth 100 each and placed them into a bag before handing it to Su Ming respectfully. Su Ming checked it. Once he was certain there were no mistakes, he took out the bottle and returned it to Wu Sen. Your blood of corpses is incredibly valuable. Don't lose it again. Su Ming looked at him profoundly before turning around and leaving the room, disappearing into the darkness bathed in moonlight. Wu Sen held onto the bottle. As he watched Su Ming leave, his expression kept changing. After some time, he gave a long sigh and completely gave up on the idea of harming Su Ming. Back in Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings, Su Ming looked at the 30-something white stone coins in his hands, feeling incredibly excited. He had never had so much money before. As he looked at the stone coins that were emitting a glittering white glow, Su Ming could not help himself but bring them one by one to his eyes so that he could take a closer look at them. This sort of feeling, where he obtained such a large fortune, was akin to the feeling when he had previously become the center of attention. When his pockets were suddenly filled with so many stone coins from compared to its previously empty state, it made Su Ming feel as if he had just become a spendthrift person. After all, this was the first time he had obtained so much money. If Lei Chen knew how much money I have, he would definitely be staring at me wide-eyed and stuttering in disbelief. There was a faint hint of youthful pridefulness on Su Ming's face. More importantly, he felt as if he had gotten this amount of money without any effort and without paying much of a price. This was different from the time he had sold that one scattering dust for 100 stone coins. Wu Sen is so rich. It's understandable that he would have this amount of money as one of the prodigies in Wind Stream. But after this trade, I doubt that he has much left. Su Ming did not believe one bit that Wu Sen had only this amount of money, but there would not be much left for him either way. Su Ming had already thought about all possible future troubles clearly. For one, his power was greater than Wu Sen's, hence even if he met Wu Sen during the day, it would still be all right for him. More importantly, Wu Sen did not know that Mo Su was Su Ming. He had no idea where to look for him either. With these, as long as Su Ming's identity was not exposed, he would be safe. Furthermore, it was also unknown whether Wu Sen would even dare to try to cause trouble for him. There was, in fact, a high possibility that Wu Sen would choose to endure it and not provoke him. After all, Wu Sen was not a fool. He knew how to act accordingly. Chapter 76. Friend, please hold your step. The status of being a prodigy in Wind Stream Tribe was no longer of any use to Su Ming. He had thought about it carefully before finding courage to look for Wu Sen. Tomorrow morning, I'll go and get enough herbs when everyone from Wind Stream Tribe is paying all their attention to the second stage of the test, Su Ming thought in his heart and placed all the stone coins into his bosom. He did not think that they were heavy. Although it made the area around his chest bloated, the satisfaction in his heart made him not care about the weight. Once he put away all the stone coins, Su Ming took out the small wooden box and opened it. Once he saw the 7-leaved herb inside, a bright look appeared in his eyes. This thing was as important as the stone coins. He did not expect to obtain this from Wu Sen. This was one of the 2 herbs he had never seen before that he would need if he wanted to create South Asunder. So it's called 7 Hearts. It's a pity he didn't have the other herb, or else I could try making South Asunder. I wonder what the effects of this pill are compared to Mountain Spirit. Su Ming looked at the herb for a few more moments before placing it close to his person. If anyone had looked at his chest then, they would have been able to tell that there were a lot of things hidden away there. However, Su Ming could not do anything else about it. He had too much stuff that he had to take with him. Once he arranged everything, Su Ming sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. He did not activate his chi to train, but chose instead to recall the method to cast dark blood dust and tried to practice the Berserker art. This was the second Berserker art he could train and cast. Compared to Spirit Devourer, this art had more devastating power, but could not be used repeatedly. Time passed by slowly, and no other words were spoken that night. When the first rays of sunlight fell from the sky and morning arrived, the entire Windstream city woke up from its slumber. Noises began to reverberate around the city as it gradually grew in volume. Today was another day of the grand ceremony. It was the second stage of the test. This stage was no longer a test of potential, but a test of power and speed, which was directly related to participants' cultivation. The venue of the test was again, not in Windstream City, but located at the giant field with the 9 eagle statues, which was at the foot of Windstream Mountain. The moment morning was over, the tribe members in Windstream City left one after another towards the field. It was the same for Dark Mountain Tribe. With the head of the guards and Shan Hen guiding them, Bei Ling, Lei Chen, and Wu Le walked out of their lodgings. However, the elder did not follow them this time. Even after everyone had left and Su Ming came out of his room, he did not see the elder. He did not know where the elder had went, but once he thought about it, he did not pay too much attention to it. The elder should be with Windstream Tribe's elder at the moment. When he walked out of the lodgings, Su Ming did not change his appearance. He had discovered that the berserker vessel that the elder had given him could not alter his appearance as completely as he pleased. Right now, it could only maintain Mo Su's appearance and the one he had used when he snatched away the blood of corpses from Wu Sen that night. Even if he could change his appearance into a third different look, there would be something off about it. That was a clear sign of the limit of this item. That was why he chose not to alter his appearance and used his original look to walk around Windstream City. Still, he had prepared himself. He bought a few beast skin shirts to wrap around his body. He also wrapped up his head until his eyes were the only things left visible. His appearance might have seemed odd, but there were quite a few people disguised this way within Windstream City. It was clear that they did not want anyone remembering how they looked like when they were buying things. There were fewer people walking in Windstream City. Most of them had already gone to watch the second stage of the test in the field. Since there were fewer people here, not only were there less people wandering about the streets, even those who went to the stalls were few and far in between. Su Ming's target was clear as he walked through the streets. He might not be completely familiar with Windstream City, but he knew about the few places that were specifically used for trading. There were some houses that specialized in selling herbs. They were the main places Su Ming intended to visit. There was one such shop right before him at the moment. It had no name, and it was not a big stall, but there was a tribe member from Windstream Tribe lying on the table yawning. When he saw Su Ming coming in, he cast him a glance and quickly stood up. Without even waiting for the person to speak, Su Ming spoke slowly with a coarse voice. "I want 100 cloud gauze grass." While speaking, he brought out his right hand from his sleeve and placed it lightly on the table. A white stone coin appeared in his hand. The eyes of the person from Windstream Tribe immediately brightened. He was used to customers like Su Ming. He knew that these sort of people did not want anyone inquiring about their identity. They did not need anyone introducing them herbs either. Their targets were always very clear. Without a hint of hesitation, the Windstream Tribe member immediately nodded his head and went into the house. Before long, he took out a bag made of hides and placed it before Su Ming. Su Ming took it and looked into the bag briefly. It was filled with cloud gauze grass. The number should also be 100. This herb was not so easily sold outside, and it was rare for anyone to possess such a huge amount outside the city, but it was a common herb within the Mudstone City. He took the bag and left the stall. With the same method, Su Ming visited dozens of other shops. He bought a large amount of cloud gauze grass from each shop and also a large number of some other supplementary herbs as well. He also bought some herbs that he did not need as an act of caution. By doing so, even if his actions caught someone's attention, they could not figure out his intentions. Within less than half a day, there were only 1,000-something stone coins left in his possession from the 3,000-something stone coins he had before he started. The speed with which he spent his money made Su Ming's heart clench in pain, but he had no choice. This was the first time he felt that quenching pills was difficult if he did not have enough money to buy the things he needed. I'll have to use this money sparingly, I'm spending my money too quickly. Su Ming's face was bitter. There were bags made of hides of all sizes hanging off his person. He had too much stuff, and it caused him a headache, but he had no choice. I should have enough. I'll put them away in the lodgings first, only then can I come back and continue buying stuff. Su Ming made up his mind and quickly walked back towards Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. He only took a few steps before he stopped. His brows crinkled slightly, but quickly relaxed. His expression was blank as he continued walking forward. Before him, there was an old man with a sharp mouth and cheeks of a monkey. He had his head lowered, clearly deep in thought. There was a prideful look on his face as he mumbled under his breath and twitched the fingers on his right hand as if calculating something. Su Ming walked calmly towards him. The moment he brushed shoulders with the old man, Su Ming heard what he was mumbling about. I earned big this time. It's all thanks to Mo Su, or else I'd have definitely lost a lot of money this time. He's a great person indeed. Su Ming's heart did not waver. He continued walking forward once he passed by the old man. However, the old man only took a few steps forward before he suddenly turned around and looked at Su Ming's back. His eyes flashed brightly as he looked at the number of bags hanging off Su Ming's body. Friend, please hold back, the old man immediately spoke. Su Ming frowned. He pretended he did not hear him. Not only did he not stop, he walked faster. Friend, stop. The old man quickly ran after him and blocked Su Ming's way. There was a familiar smile on his face, a smile Su Ming had seen before. A cold flash appeared briefly in Su Ming's eyes. He did not speak, but chose to walk around him. The old man quickly took a few steps back. The smile did not disappear from his face as he quickly spoke. Friend, listen to me. I see that you've bought a lot of stuff. You must have gone to a lot of stalls, but I have with me something good that those stalls don't have. Su Ming ignored him and continued walking forward, but the old man did not mind his attitude. He just followed Su Ming and continued chattering away. Friend, don't be so indifferent. I really have something good with me. Look at this herb. It may seem normal, but you know Mo Su, right? Let me tell you, it's only because Mo Su took this herb of mine that he became so famous during the first stage. While speaking, the old man took out a herb from his bosom and waved it beside Su Ming. Su Ming was getting increasingly annoyed by the old man's constant chattering. The old man seemed to have stuck himself on him and continued following him with an air of one who would continue pestering Su Ming until he relented and bought something. This was something Su Ming had prior experience of. Now that he experienced it again, it gave him a massive headache. You don't believe me, haha. It's fine if you don't, but let me tell you, I have something else. Look at this herb, it's so colorful and pretty, right? Let me tell you, Yi Wang used this during the final moment of the test. This one too. You've heard of Bai Su, right? This person was previously unknown, but do you know how he placed fourth? I'm telling you, it's because the old man's bosom seemed to be an endless pit that stored a countless number of herbs. He brought them out one by one as if he was worried Su Ming would not buy them and continued introducing new ones to him. Because he ate that herb of yours, right? Su Ming felt as if his ears were buzzing when he interrupted the old man's words coldly. Chapter 77. The Torn Bag. Friend, you're really smart. You're right. It's precisely because of this herb. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Bei Chong. I specialize in selling mysterious and rare herbs in Windstream Tribe. Let me tell you, Yi Wang is a good friend of mine, Shen Chong is a great customer of mine, Wu Sen regularly comes to buy herbs from me, and that Mo Su, I'm not lying to you, I really know Mo Su. The old man quickly took a large number of herbs and waved them before Su Ming's eyes. Yi Wang regularly buys these. Shen Chong regularly needs these. Wu Sen always keeps these in store when he trains. Mo Su already reserved these, I can't sell too much to you. The old man's hands were moving quickly, and he would bring out a large number of herbs every single time. The rapid change could make anyone confused. I'm not interested. If you continue following me, then don't blame me for taking drastic action. A cold glare appeared briefly in Su Ming's eyes as he cast the old man a glance, then he quickly took a few steps further away from him. Friend, you seem familiar, I remember now, the old man looked at Su Ming, and when he saw that Su Ming's face was covered by hides, it became clear to him that Su Ming did not want anyone seeing his face. He had met a lot of this kind of people in the past, and he knew just what they were afraid of. That was why an exaggerated look appeared on his face, and he exclaimed, almost as if he was just about to let out a slip of his tongue. Su Ming's footsteps paused for a moment, but he had been very intelligent since he was young, and coupled with the elder's guidance and teachings, it was impossible for him to be fooled by such a cheap trick. He laughed coldly in his heart and continued walking forward without bothering about the old man. There was not a hint of awkwardness on the old man's face when he saw that his ploy did not work. Instead, a fighting spirit was lit in his eyes as if he would not throw away any chance to sell his wares easily. It was especially so when he saw the numerous bags hanging off Su Ming's body and became certain that this person was rich. He would definitely not let him off. He quickly ran a few steps forward and caught up to Su Ming. He changed his words once more and continued bringing out the herbs from his bosom. Su Ming was irritated. He was just about to use his maximum speed and shake off the old man when he saw the old man bringing out another large amount of herbs from his bosom. A thought occurred in his head. Are these herbs really as powerful as you say they are? Su Ming stopped and cast a glance at the old man's chest as he spoke slowly. The moment the old man heard Su Ming's words, he became excited and immediately patted his chest. Nodding his head, he spoke with a serious expression, "Friend, don't worry. I am equally honest to children and old people alike, I don't lie." Su Ming's face was colored with hesitation. The old man became even more excited and took a few steps forward quickly before he whispered, "There are too many people here. It's not easy for us to trade. Let's go over there. It's quieter there, and it's perfect for us to trade my goods." As the old man spoke, he put on a wary face and looked at his surroundings before pointing towards a remote alley situated not far away. Su Ming hesitated for a brief moment before he nodded. The old man quickly took a few steps with Su Ming, reaching the remote alley. There was no one there. He quelled his excitement and whispered, "Friend, what do you like? Do you like Yi Wang's, or Chen Chong's, or Bai Sus? But friend, I can't sell too much of Mo Sus herbs to you. I didn't see them clearly just now, so I don't know what is good. If they're as great as you say, then I will consider buying some of all from you," Su Ming said, with hesitation still evident on his face as he cast a glance at the old man. "Don't worry, I can let you see them." The old man immediately became even more excited. A smile also appeared on his face, and he quickly took out various types of herbs from his bosom. He brought out 2 to 3 herbs of each type. "Just these? That's too little." Su Ming swept his gaze over the herbs and shook his head. "That's already a lot. These are all rare herbs, it's impossible that there would be a lot around." The old man was momentarily shocked before he quickly explained. Su Ming did not speak, but instead reached into his bosom with his right hand and took out a small bag. He opened it before the old man and revealed nearly 10 white stone coins inside. The old man stared at the stone coins with brilliant eyes. After a few deep breaths, his face became incredibly grave and he looked around before stepping closer towards Su Ming and whispered, "Friend, since you're so sincere, I'll tell you the truth. I have 100 something of each type of herb in stock. It's not that they're not precious, but I have my own method of obtaining them. Since you really want to buy them, I'll take all of them out for you to see." As the old man spoke, he took out handfuls upon handfuls of herbs and placed them all on the ground. Before long, the ground was filled with more than 1,000 herbs. "That's all I have. I've placed all my herbs here. 1,000 stone coins and it's all yours." The old man was very nervous while looking at Su Ming. If these herbs were all placed together, then a very large sack would be needed. It was impossible to place them all within his bosom. Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest. He stared at the old man's chest, and something flashed through his eyes. "How did you manage to place all those herbs within your bosom? What's hanging on your chest?" The moment the old man heard his words, his face became wary. He quickly took a few steps back and covered his chest, a fearful and shocked expression appearing on his face. "Stop pretending. I won't buy these herbs, but if you have a bag that can place all these herbs inside, then I might consider buying one of your bags," Su Ming spoke slowly. "I won't sell it," the old man said immediately, letting out a loud harumph after. Su Ming held the bag containing the stone coins and swung it lightly. The sound of stone coins knocking against each other could be heard from within. The sound was very clear and melodious, causing the old man's face to become conflicted. 5,000 stone coins. Give me 5,000 stone coins and I'll sell it to you." While speaking, the old man brought out a small bag the size of a palm from his bosom. The appearance of the thing was very peculiar. There was a round picture drawn on it by some unknown method. It seemed like it was drawn onto it, but if anyone looked closely, they would find that the picture was not drawn, but printed on the bag. It was a pity that there was a torn part on a corner of the cloth bag. "This is a treasure. It's rare even within Windstream tribe. You can store a lot of items in here. Without 5,000 stone coins, don't even think about buying it from me," the old man stated while holding tightly onto the cloth bag. "There's a ripped part on the bag," Su Ming calmly pointed out. "Of course, if it was in perfect shape, forget 5,000 stone coins, even if it was for 10,000 stone coins, I wouldn't sell it," the old man said proudly. 500 stone coins. If you're not selling it, then forget it," Su Ming said after thinking for a moment. What did you say? 500 stone coins? Impossible." The old man's expression changed incredibly quickly. His face was now twisted in fury, as if the price given by Su Ming was a form of humiliation to him. "You've said that you've been selling herbs in Windstream tribe for many years and have met a lot of prodigies. I don't believe that no one has seen through this as well. If you still have this bag with you, then it's clear that this isn't the only one you have. 500 stone coins, if you're not selling it, forget it," Su Ming told him calmly and turned around to leave. The old man stood there, wavering, and struggled with his thoughts. When he saw that Su Ming was really going to leave and was about to reach the end of the alley, the old man quickly yelled at him. 800 stone coins, ah, fine, 500 stone coins. 500 stone coins and it's yours. Su Ming stopped and turned his head, gesturing with his right hand. The old man went up to him with extreme reluctance. He handed the bag to Su Ming. Once Su Ming took it, he could immediately feel that the bag was light. In fact, the moment he touched the bag, a picture appeared in his head. It was a space that was about 30 feet in size. However, only half the space could be used. There were crack-like marks on the other half of the space. HMPH. You earned big this time, I'm telling you. You can keep your items here once you pat them on the bag. If you want to take them out, all you need is just to think about it. The old man explained how to use the item, all the while grumbling under his breath. Su Ming was very curious. He took out an herb from one of his numerous bags and tried to place it in the bag using the method the old man just told him. Once he saw that what the old man told him was true, he could not help but smile. It's good, right? I have a lot of good things with me. You got a great deal buying this for only 500 stone coins. Don't go out telling other people about it. Give me the money quickly. The old man looked dispirited as he held out his hand for the money. Half of the space in there is torn. Is it due to the damage on the bag? Su Ming did not hand him the money immediately but asked instead. I don't know about that. I only have this with me, and I've used it for many years. It's always been like this. Hurry up and give me the money." The old man quickly avoided the question. Su Ming looked at the old man with a profound look. He threw the torn bag to the old man and shook his head. "What do you mean? You don't want it anymore?" The old man was immediately stunned. "No matter how amazing it is, it's still a torn bag. It's not worth 500 stone coins. More importantly, I believe that before long, the crack within will slowly spread until I can no longer use it. In fact, there's even a possibility that I won't be able to take out the things from within. What's the use of this to me then? No way. I've been using this for many years. It definitely won't happen," the old man quickly guaranteed. "I can't be certain about it. If I buy it, then I'll only give you 200 stone coins. After a few months, if it's truly as you say, then I'll give you the rest of the stone coins," Su Ming said with a casual tone. "That won't do. How am I supposed to find you then?" The old man quickly shook his head. "If you don't want it, then forget it." Su Ming did not show any reluctance and turned around to leave. "Ah, fine, I'll sell it to you for 200 stone coins. 3 months later, you have to give me the remainder of the money. There aren't a lot of tribes around the region, and there are only so many people around. If you don't pay up, I'll still be able to find you," the old man said with a pained face as he handed the cloth bag to Su Ming once again. This time, Su Ming no longer pondered around and hesitated. He took out 2 white stone coins and took the cloth bag, completing the trade before he left the remote alley. The old man waited until Su Ming was long gone before the pained look on his face completely disappeared, replaced by a look of satisfaction. He took out another torn cloth bag from his bosom and placed all the herbs on the ground inside it. Then he let out a sigh. "That child is bright. He's much harder to fool compared to Yi Wang. Even Yi Wang spent 500 stone coins on this. He's even better, he only spent 200 and bought it. HMPH. Once I sell a few more of these and they're used to it, then I'll start reaping my profits," the old man mumbled under his breath as excitement and anticipation appeared on his face. Chapter 78. Let's walk around in circles. The weather may be clear during winter, but it was still cold. However, to berserkers, this sort of cold was bearable. Besides, winter season was about to be over. Snow was falling from the sky as if winter refused to leave and wanted to remind all the living beings on Earth that it was still around. The snow was not heavy initially, but before long, vast amounts of it fell from the sky. It swept through the land as a strong blast of wind suddenly stirred up in the region. As the wind moaned, the snow danced. It was snowing heavily by noon. It may not have covered everything, but as the wind swept away the snow, it obscured the sky, like a layer of darkness suddenly falling on the land. Su Ming walked through the streets of the mudstone city. Snow was falling on him. His shirt, hair, and some even crept into the beast skins covering his head, falling on the tip of his nose. The snow had come suddenly. Before Su Ming had managed to go back to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings, his path was cut off by the heavy snowfall. Su Ming walked briskly in the snow and left behind a trail of footprints, but they were soon covered by falling snowflakes and gone without a trace. This was perhaps the last snowfall this winter. As Su Ming exhaled, his breath turned into white fog. After a while, once he was certain no one was following him, he took a few turns and returned to his lodgings. The wind was stronger, and the snow fell heavier. Standing at the door, Su Ming stomped on the ground with all his might until he shook off all the snow from his person. Only then did he go into the house. It was much warmer inside compared to when he was outside. Su Ming closed the door and took off all the hides wrapped around his entire body. He cast them aside and placed all the hide bags filled with herbs on the ground, then activated his chi and circulated it throughout himself until he got rid of the chill in his body. Once he did so, he sat down cross-legged and brought out the small torn bag, observing it carefully. This bag is very mysterious. It can hold so many things within, but there must be something wrong with it because Bei Chong sold it to me far too easily. Something flashed through Su Ming's eyes. He had suspected it before, and the more he thought about it, the more he thought that Bei Chong's actions were off. After a moment of thought, he brought out some herbs that had no use to him and placed them into the bag before attempting to take them out. He found nothing wrong with the process. I still have to be careful. After all, these herbs are all that I have. If I put them all in and something happens, then it'll be terrible. Su Ming scratched his head and decided to just put the thought aside. He would wait a few more days. Once everything calmed down, then he would have the elder look at the bag. Su Ming put the bag away and sat down cross-legged. As he was circulating his qi, he slowly concentrated on learning dark blood dust. He had to hurry up and learn the art so that he could cast it during a real battle. As for his original plan to walk around the Mudstone City again and see whether he had anything else he wanted to buy, it was cancelled due to the huge snowfall outside. The wind and snow were whistling outside. Su Ming sat down quietly in his room. Time passed by slowly. Soon, it was dusk outside. When there was no snow falling, it would usually be rather bright during dusk. Yet today, there was a hint of darkness even though the sun was still out. He could not see clearly into the distance. All he could see was the snow falling from the sky. However, due to it, there was a hint of silver light reflecting off the surface of the newly covered ground in the dim light. The snow was still falling heavily. Before long, Su Ming's ears twitched, and he got up. When he stood up and opened the door to his room, he saw Bei Ling and the others walking back. These people weren't talking among themselves as they did yesterday. It might have been because the snow was falling too heavily. Once Bei Ling cast a glance at Su Ming, he quickly went back into his own room. Wu Le looked dull, as if she could not lift her spirits up. She too returned to her own room. Only Lei Chen smiled at Su Ming good-naturedly and approached him. He looked as if he wanted to tell Su Ming what he saw during the day. The head of the guards was frowning, caught up in his thoughts. He would look at the sky occasionally, and there would be a hint of worry on his face. Shan Hen still looked indifferent. He no longer took note of Su Ming and went back into his room. Su Ming, the second stage of the test was seriously very intense today. The test of strength and speed reflects our current level of power. Yi Wang is indeed the strongest among the youths in Wind Stream. He's just too powerful. He surpassed Chen Chong by way too much, and he's placed second. That Bai Su from Black Mountain Tribe will definitely become a great enemy of ours. He was ranked third. He seems to be at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm, and he's really strong. It's a pity Mo Su didn't appear, or else it'd have been even more exciting. Ah, I didn't manage to get into the top 50, neither did Wu Le. Only Bei Ling managed to place 49th. The second stage may have been over quickly, but it was really magnificent. I heard that the third stage will only be held 3 days later. It's a test of real combat. It should be even more exciting. Lei Chen spoke excitedly with Su Ming in his room for a long time. He told him everything that he saw and experienced that day. He wanted to continue speaking, but when he saw that Su Ming's interest was not great, he spoke for a little while longer before leaving while yawning. Lei Chen had also taken part in the test that day and was a little exhausted. When Lei Chen left, Su Ming waited until dusk was over and the snowstorm was also slightly lighter outside before he stood up with his heart pounding against his chest. He left his room feeling nervous but eager. This time, Shan Hen did not appear when Su Ming walked out of Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. The sky was dark, but the land was lit with a silver glow. Snow fell from the sky, and it caused Su Ming to experience an indescribable feeling. After a long while of walking in the snowstorm, Su Ming changed his appearance and turned into Mo Su. He approached Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings and stood there, waiting. Time gradually passed by, and the snowstorm continued. As snow kept falling from the sky, the door to Dark Dragon Tribe opened silently and Bai Ling poked out her beautiful head from within. She wore a white shirt and had multiple furs decorating her neck. She looked incredibly beautiful. She looked around for a moment. When she saw Su Ming, a shy look immediately appeared on her petite face, but there was also happiness that was difficult to conceal. She took a few brisk steps and stood in front of Su Ming. They looked at each other and smiled. "You must have waited for a long time," Bai Ling said softly. "No, I just arrived." Su Ming scratched his head as he looked at Bai Ling standing before him. He had never seen such a beautiful person in his life. As he looked at the sight of the snow causing Bai Ling's cheeks to color a light red and at her twinkling eyes, which held a hint of bashfulness. Su Ming's heart pounded even more quickly. "What are you looking at? You look like an idiot. Didn't you say you wanted to walk in circles?" Bai Ling's face became even redder, but she did not look away from Su Ming's gaze. Instead, she blinked and chuckled softly. "Ah, yes, ha ha." Su Ming touched his nose. The two of them walked into the distance under the snowstorm amidst Bai Ling's laughter. When they disappeared into the snowstorm, Sikong sat in Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings with a conflicted look. He wanted to go and watch them, but in the end gave up on the idea with a long sigh. The old woman was also inside Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings. She was sitting inside her room. She knew that Bai Ling had gone out, but she did not stop her. In her mind, if Bai Ling could be together with Mo Su, then it was the best possible outcome. The wind bellowed, and snow danced in the air. In that snowstorm, Su Ming and Bai Ling walked through an alley in the Mudstone City. The snow fell around them and gave off an attractive glimmer. It landed on the roofs and the buildings situated on both sides of the alley, causing the place to turn into a world of snow. There were few people who walked outside during this kind of night. Su Ming was very nervous. The quick-witted intelligence he displayed last time when he spoke to Bai Ling was gone. Only after his hand was taken by Bai Ling, and he felt the sweat and smoothness of her palm, did Su Ming snap back from his stupor and clutched Bai Ling's small hand. Bai Ling lowered her head. She looked incredibly beautiful when her rosy cheeks were illuminated by the snow. "Let's go, take a walk around," Su Ming whispered and lowered himself down. A bashful smile appeared on Bai Ling's face, and she laid on Su Ming's back. The warmth that was emitted from Su Ming's back made her feel happy. Su Ming breathed in the light fragrance coming from behind him and felt the similar warmth coming from Bai Ling's petite body. He took in a deep breath and dashed forward, jumping over the mudstone walls surrounding the city and left them behind himself. Bai Ling's heart raced against her chest. She could also feel Su Ming's heart pounding as he ran. They welcomed the snowstorm falling on the plains outside Windstream Tribe and continued running further away into the quiet and secluded plains. Snow fell on their bodies, but they did not feel cold. Instead, the warmth they felt in their hearts surrounded their bodies. When they were outside the city, Su Ming's appearance reverted to his original look. "Bai Ling, why does it feel like you've grown heavier?" Su Ming's voice contained hints of happiness as he laughed into the snowy night. Nonsense. Bai Ling was originally immersed in the warmth coming from Su Ming's back, but the moment she heard his words, she immediately glared at him and pinched him. Su Ming winced in pain, but his laughter became even more joyful. He jumped abruptly, causing Bai Ling to yelp in surprise, and continued running forward. His laughter and Bai Ling's rebukes overlapped with each other and created a beautiful noise. Happy moments always went by too quickly. It was already midnight before they even noticed it. Su Ming and Bai Ling walked in the snow, holding hands and whispering to each other like they would never run out of topics to talk to about. The laughter that occasionally rang out between them also showed just how beautiful the moment was for them. Snow continued falling. It landed on their bodies and their heads. If anyone looked at them from a distance, they would think Su Ming and Bai Ling's hair was almost entirely white. They wondered whether they could continue walking like this until their heads turned white, or perhaps, they would look back at these days and sigh because they've lost them. "Do you still remember the night when we were at Dark Mountain? It was also snowing." "I do. I remember your hair was dyed white by snow. You're the same. You turned into an old woman. Say, if we continue walking in the snow like this, will we walk until our heads eventually turn white?" Bai Ling whispered, holding Su Ming's hand, and there was a hint of fragility in her voice. Chapter 79. Who is sighing in that promise? Snow continued falling like a beautiful silver curtain draped on the land. It connected the heavens and earth, turning it into a timeless and unforgettable sight. The snow swayed in the air and fell before Su Ming. As wind blew and whistled by, the white coating would be lifted from the ground and dance with the snowflakes falling from the sky. There were some snow that floated before Bai Ling in the wind and passed by both of her bone earrings, falling on her neck, which was covered by her thick shirt, and melting. While listening to Bai Ling's soft muttering by his ear, warmth grew in Su Ming's heart and traveled through his entire body. That warmth then turned into a special feeling. There was a pleasant word to describe it: happiness. It was a beautiful night, with beautiful snow, and there were two people immersed in happiness. Su Ming smiled. It was a faint smile filled with happiness and the innocence of a young boy. He stopped and looked at Bai Ling. At that moment, the girl in the snow looked as if she had turned into a timeless picture, and the image was ingrained deeply in Su Ming's memories, the image of the white snow, her white clothes, the girl who was as beautiful as the snow, and the words she was whispering quietly. Bai Ling was very pretty. Some ice fragments stuck to her trembling eyelashes. Su Ming continued looking at her and felt that everything had disappeared from the world. It was as if the only ones that existed were the two of them. After a long while, when Bai Ling's cheeks slowly turned even redder due to Su Ming's gaze, he raised his right hand and took off the fang necklace hanging on his neck. He took off the biggest fang, which was the size of his little finger, and handed it to Bai Ling. The fang was completely white. It was crescent in shape, and there were two words carved on it. Those words were Su Ming's own name. The fang emanated a fierce presence. The elder gave this fang to me when I took part in my first Berserker's awakening when I was 7. This is something I really like. I'll give it to you. There was a smile on Su Ming's face, but he was feeling nervous. In their tribes, handing over this thing as a gift held a special meaning. Bai Ling pursed her lips. Her face turned even redder, and her heart raced against her chest. The sounds of her heart pounding made everything disappear from her eyes, leaving only Su Ming. After a long while, Bai Ling gently lifted her pale hand and took the fang. The moment she touched it, her fingers shook. She held it lightly in her hand. Su Ming was nervous. When he saw that Bai Ling was only looking at the fang and had no intention to do anything else after a while, he scratched his head, causing some of the snow on his hair to fall. Bai Ling cast a glance at Su Ming. When she saw his silly act, she covered her mouth and smiled. There was a mischievous look in her eyes and an indescribable warmth that could make others melt. Aren't you forgetting something? The moment Bai Ling laughed at him, Su Ming's face also turned red. What is it? Bai Ling was still smiling. Her smile was really beautiful, and surrounded by the snow in the snowstorm, it created an unforgettable sight. Su Ming's face turned even redder, but very soon, he gritted his teeth and took a deep breath and looked at Bai Ling. He spoke seriously. Bai Ling, I'm your savior. I know that you're my savior, but what does that have to do with me forgetting something? Bai Ling blinked. Of course it does. Let's not talk about this. That bone earring of yours is really beautiful, let me have a look at one of them. Su Ming looked around and quickly changed the topic. The mirth in Bai Ling's eyes became even stronger, and with it, her slyness grew as well. She lifted her hand and touched the white bone earring on her left ear while looking at Su Ming. My mom left this for me, I won't give it to you. Bai Ling laughed when she saw Su Ming's widened eyes. When he seemed to be about ready to snatch it, she immediately ran backwards. Her laughter traveled into the distance like silver bells. Nonetheless, even if she said that, she still held on to the fang Su Ming gave her in her hand like a piece of treasure. Su Ming glared, vexed, and immediately gave chase. The both of them laughed happily in the snow. Bai Ling did not give Su Ming the bone earring in the end, but Su Ming, ignorant as he may be, still felt something different within the gentleness in her eyes. Tired, Bai Ling sat down in the snow. She looked at the snow falling from the sky and asked lightly, Su Ming, what will we become in 10 years? Are we still going to be as carefree as we are now? Su Ming placed both of his hands behind his head and laid down beside Bai Ling. The snow was very soft. He too looked at the snow falling from the sky while listening to Bai Ling's words. Are you still angry? Bai Ling turned her head and looked at Su Ming with a smile as her beautiful eyes flashed brilliantly. Don't be mad. I'm not mad. Su Ming let out a harumph, but when he saw Bai Ling looking at him, a smile appeared on his face. 10 years later, we'll definitely still be as carefree as we are now, and by that time, my level of cultivation will definitely be very high. There was an expectant look in Su Ming's eyes. The elder told me yesterday that I'll be staying in Windstream Tribe in the future. I'll receive the same guidance as Yi Wang from Windstream's elder, perhaps in 10 years' time, I'll be close to Awakening Realm. Su Ming laughed. As she listened to Su Ming's words, a look of anticipation appeared in Bai Ling's eyes. There was a happy smile on her face, and she continued talking with Su Ming in the snowy night, as if they would never finish talking to each other. Good times were always over too quickly. Although time in reality was passing by slowly, and there was still some time before daylight, all moments had to end eventually. Bai Ling had to return to the lodgings of her tribe. Both of them went back to the outskirts of the mudstone city. "I'll send you back." Su Ming squatted down and gestured for Bai Ling to get on his back. There was a happy smile on Bai Ling's face. She laid on Su Ming's back once again obediently and felt Su Ming's heartbeat. The constant rhythm of it made her cheeks redden. "It's so stupid," she whispered in a soft voice, lying on Su Ming's back while he ran. Su Ming continued running through the snowstorm with Bai Ling on his back and jumped over a remote section of the wall into the mudstone city. He also changed his appearance to that of Mo Sus. Su Ming stopped right outside Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings, and Bai Ling climbed down from his back with a hint of reluctance. She looked at Su Ming, at the boy before her eyes. His face may have turned unfamiliar, but she would never forget his eyes. Su Ming also looked at Bai Ling. They gazed into each other's eyes as they stood on the snowy street. "Come now, don't be angry anymore." Bai Ling raised her hand, and just like the last time they parted, she arranged Su Ming's clothes and patted away some of the snow off his person. There was a gentle smile on her face. "Those bone earrings of yours are really pretty." Su Ming laughed. When she saw Su Ming behaving that way, Bai Ling laughed, too. As she continued laughing, she looked deeply at Su Ming. The bashful look became even more distinct on her delicate face, and she lowered her head gently. "Su Ming, it'll be an important day for me 7 days later. I've always spent that day with my grandma in the past. This year, I want to spend that day with you, all right?" Bai Ling said after gathering all her courage. Her voice was weak, but Su Ming still heard every word she said. Happiness appeared in his eyes, and he gave a huge nod without moving his eyes away from Bai Ling. "That's a promise." Bai Ling smiled shyly, gazing into Su Ming's eyes. "That's a promise. 7 days later, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, I'll definitely come and find you," Su Ming swore. The snow was still falling from the sky as if it was serving as a witness for the two people standing there. Still, it was unknown whether their promise would turn into a beautiful memory or into a regretful sigh. "I'll definitely wait for you in the tribe that day. I'll give you the bone earring then," Bai Ling whispered, touching the bone earring, and her ears also turned red. "I'll definitely come." Su Ming smiled happily, incredibly happily. Bai Ling bit her lip. The bashful look was still on her face when she turned around and walked back towards the lodgings of her tribe. When she pushed open the door to the courtyard and walked in, she turned back and looked at Su Ming for a moment before disappearing into her lodgings. Su Ming stood where he was with happiness filling his entire heart. He also grew expectant towards the promise he made with Bai Ling of meeting 7 days later. 7 days, Su Ming smiled with happiness. He turned around and ran into the snowstorm, back towards where his tribe was located. The snowflakes also seemed to know about Su Ming's joy and danced around him. The snow from the ground was also lifted by the wind and seemed to have become a part of the space between the sky and the earth. Su Ming ran quickly. The bliss he felt in his heart had turned into warmth that surrounded his whole body. It made him forget all his troubles and worries. Very soon, he arrived at Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. The moment he got back, Su Ming reverted to his original look. He looked at Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings, located not too far into the distance of the snowy night, and took a deep breath. He walked towards the lodgings cheerfully. It was quiet inside. It may have been night, but due to the snow falling from the sky, the night was glowing with a silvery night, hence it was not completely dark. Within the snowstorm, the door to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings was shut tight, as if there was a depressing feeling coming from within. The moment Su Ming got closer, he sensed it. When he opened the door and saw the sight within the courtyard, he trembled. The happiness in his heart immediately disappeared, replaced with a panicked look on his face. The head of the guards, Shan Hen, Bei Ling, Lei Chen, and Wula were all gathered in the courtyard. They had varying faces of panic that showed how frightened and anxious they were. Before them, the elder was sitting cross-legged with a pale face, panting harshly. Before him was a shocking pool of black blood staining the white snow on the ground. The moment Su Ming pushed open the door, all gazes were trained onto him. Elder. Su Ming's mind went blank. He dashed madly forward until he arrived before the elder. For the first time in his life, he saw weakness on the elder's wizened face. Some of the black blood on the snow even stained the elder's clothes. Su Ming trembled. Chapter 80. I want to go back. You're back, the elder opined his eyes. There was no hint of color on his face, but he still looked at Su Ming with a gentle and loving smile. Elder, what happened? Elder, there was a roaring in Su Ming's head. When he saw how weakened the elder was, tears fell down his face. He was terrified. He did not know what to do. His mind was in a state of panic, even his voice trembled. Elder, Lei Chen, what happened? Su Ming lifted his head abruptly and looked at Lei Chen. At that moment, he no longer cared about hiding his powers or his identity. There was only scorching anger raging in his heart. He wanted to know who injured the elder. Even if he was powerless to take revenge for him, he had to know. He did not speak loudly, but there was an indescribable might within his voice. The moment he looked at Lei Chen, tears also escaped from Lei Chen's eyes. I don't know either, the elder just came back. All right now, listen to me, the elder took a deep breath and stood up from the ground. His expression was serious as he swept his gaze over everyone gathered in the courtyard. I went to Black Mountain Tribe, the elder said slowly. His tone was low, but each syllable that fell into their ears sounded like thunder roaring. The head of the guard's expression immediately changed. Beside him, a brief flash that was easily missed appeared in Shan Hen's eyes. As for Bei Ling, he took a sharp breath, and Wu Lao's face immediately turned pale. Su Ming was the same. They knew that the tribe was in danger, and the source of the threat was Black Mountain Tribe. They may not know the whole picture, but the depressing atmosphere within the tribe these past few days had made them see some hints. When you took part in the second stage, I went to Black Mountain Tribe. I wanted to see Black Mountain Tribe's Baitu's level of cultivation. The elder explained calmly. Everything was in dead silence, and there was only the sound of the elder speaking. It was as if even the sounds of the wind disappeared at that moment. He has indeed awakened. A bitter look appeared on the elder's face. The head of the guards fell silent, and a dark look settled on his face. He hesitated, as if he was thinking about what to say, but then the elder shaking his head. It seemed like the elder knew what the head of the guards was about to say. I had to go. Without knowing his real strength, I didn't want to make all of us leave our homes and become affiliated to Windstream, who would want to leave their home, the one which they and their ancestors have lived in for hundreds of years. The elder's face was gloomy. Time is limited. I've already recovered. I'll take you all back to the tribe now. Baitu may have awakened, but he has not stabilized his power yet. I may be injured, but he can't make a move either. We will migrate. A determined look settled on the elder's face, and his eyes shone with resolution. He swung his right hand, and the snow in the courtyard scattered as if burst apart. As the sound reverberated around them, the white carpet rose up into the air and knocked against the snow falling from the sky, forming a string of echoes. Glittering light appeared in the sky soon after and abruptly gathered together to form a gigantic dark python. The python looked fierce, and the moment it appeared, it descended to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. As it descended, a great pressure immediately pressed on their bodies, causing Lei Chen and Wu Lao's bodies to shiver slightly. Even Bei Ling looked as if he could not handle the pressure. Bei Ling, Lei Chen, Wu La, the three of you can choose to stay here or to come back with me to the tribe. If you go back, it'll be dangerous. The elder looked at Bei Ling and the other two people. Elder, I'll go. Bei Ling did not hesitate and took a step forward with an unwavering look appearing in his eyes. Elder, I'm not staying here. Lei Chen clenched his fists. A murderous look appeared on his face. He wanted to go back and protect his tribe. Elder, I'm not staying here, either. Wu La gritted her teeth and looked at the elder resolutely. The elder looked at the three of them and nodded his head before swinging his arm. A huge gust of wind suddenly appeared out of nowhere, lifting Bei Ling and the other two onto the dark python. Once they were on the python, the head of the guards and Shan Hen jumped on as well. There was only Su Ming and the elder left in the courtyard. The elder looked at Su Ming. The affection in his eyes was very strong, incredibly strong. Su Ming's heart pounded. He had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Without waiting for the elder to speak, he immediately said, "Elder, I'm going back too. Let's go." The elder closed his eyes and opened them after a while, saying firmly, "You can't go back." Su Ming was stunned. His body trembled, and he lifted his head, looking at the elder. "It's useless even if you go back. There might be dangers lurking around while we're migrating here. Stay here and wait for us to come back." The moment the elder finished speaking, his body turned into a long arc and flew towards the python, leaving Su Ming alone in the courtyard with his body trembling furiously. "Elder." Su Ming lifted his head abruptly. There was great determination on his face, the kind of which he never showed before. This was the first time he did not obey the elder's words. "I want to go back to the tribe. Elder, I want to go back." Su Ming's voice was hoarse as he screamed as loud as he could towards the elder, who stood on the dark python in the sky. "Elder, Bei Ling can go back, Lei Chen can, Wula can as well. And here am I, also a member of the tribe. I want to go back. I want to protect the tribe. I want to fight for the tribe. Elder." Su Ming's eyes were red. His body was trembling as he roared, his body moving to ready itself for a jump. "No." The elder closed his eyes and pushed his right hand downward. A strong pressure bore down on Su Ming's body immediately, causing his body to freeze on the ground at the moment he was about to jump. "Wait here. Do not take even half a step out of this place." The elder sat down cross-legged on the dark python. The python lifted its head and roared at the sky before gradually rising into the air. Bei Ling and the others on the python fell silent, looking at Su Ming roaring on the ground with varying complicated looks on their faces. "Elder." Su Ming's voice turned hoarse, as if having changed. It echoed through the silent snowing night while tears ran like rivers from his eyes. His body fell with a thud, and he knelt down, kowtowing to the sky. "Elder, I want to go back. Please, let me go back. I have to go. I don't want to stay here. I won't stay here. Even if I die, I won't stay here." As Su Ming roared, the blood veins appeared all around his body, though no one could feel it. However, a strong might appeared from his body, spreading outward, fighting against the elder's restraint. Nonetheless, the restraint was too strong. Su Ming could not break through it with his own power. Due to that, fresh blood trickled out of his mouth. Yet he continued struggling, screaming once again. "Elder, even if you won't let me go, even if I die, I will definitely leave this place. That is my tribe. That is the tribe that brought me up. I want to go back. Even if I die, I want to go back. Even if I die, I want to die in the tribe. I was born as a member of Dark Mountain Tribe, and I will die as a member of Dark Mountain Tribe." The head of the guards seemed like he wanted to say something as he stood on the python, but with just one look at the elder, he fell silent. Shan Hen, who stood by his side, chose to close his eyes and not look. "Su Ming, you're useless even if you go back. Why are you wasting our time like this? Stop pretending already, you're really." Bei Ling smiled coldly. There was an indifferent look in his eyes, and he looked at Su Ming on the ground, who was feigning the entire act in his eyes. Yet before he could even finish speaking, he was interrupted by a roar from Su Ming. "Bei Ling, shut up." Su Ming's face was vicious. He no longer cared about anything. This was the first time he had disobeyed the elder, and the first time he had talked back to Bei Ling. After all, Su Ming had always decided to keep his silence no matter what Bei Ling said due to the relationship they had when they were still children. Nevertheless, he had his limits. There were things that he absolutely refused to be subjected to, and Bei Ling had just crossed the line. The moment Su Ming roared, Bei Ling was about to speak, but when he saw the bloodshot eyes on Su Ming's face, his heart trembled, and he swallowed his words. The dark python rose into the air. The elder opened his eyes, and there was sadness within. He looked at Su Ming, refusing to let him go in order to protect him. He did not want Su Ming to get into any harm. After all, the migration this time was definitely dangerous. It contained dangers that perhaps even he could not fend off. No. The elder looked at the blood trickling down the corner of Su Ming's lips, and his heart clenched in pain. He swung his right hand once again. The snowstorm bellowed and moved towards Su Ming, who was still struggling to break through the pressure, instantly enveloping his entire body and pushing him into the house. Su Ming was swept into the house in an instant. When the door was shut with a bang, the snowstorm spread and surrounded the entire house, turning it into a giant prison. There was also a strange picture drawn with snow on the house's door. That picture was formed in the image of the statue of the god of berserkers of Dark Mountain tribe. The moment the seal and the imprisonment was formed, Su Ming's roars were also cut off. The snowstorm continued. The dark python rose into the sky and soon disappeared, dashing towards Dark Mountain tribe at an incredible speed. Su Ming, this is the last thing I can do for you. From now on, you have to take good care of yourself. Mo Sang sat cross-legged on the dark python with a dismal face. Yet underneath his gloom, there was a fighting spirit burning within, a fighting spirit that screamed at him to fight till death stopped him. Bye too. As the dark python left, snow continued falling down from the sky and landed on the ground within the mudstone city, the buildings, roofs, and Dark Mountain tribe's lodgings. It was quiet. There was only the echoes of the wind moaning in the area, as if there was no other sound around. But within Dark Mountain tribe's lodgings, in the sealed house, there was a roaring voice that could rip through hearts. Yet it could not travel outward. I want to go. I want to go back to the tribe. I want to protect the tribe members. Elder, even if I die, I want to go back. Inside the room, Su Ming's hair was a mess, his eyes were bloodshot, and he was overcome by complete madness. He used all his strength and speed and rammed into the door. Every single time he did so, the entire structure of the room would shake, but due to the seal, it did not budge even an inch.